The camera glides smoothly across the polished marble floor of my Atlanta penthouse, moving in a slow, deliberate arc. It pans upward, revealing me sitting on a minimalist velvet sofa, holding a crystal glass of sparkling water. The camera never stops moving. It tracks gently to the right, capturing the golden hour sunlight, spilling through the floor-to-ceiling windows. My name is Maya. I am a 30-year-old wealth manager handling multi-million-dollar portfolios for corporate clients. But to my older brother Jamal and his wife Chloe, my only true value was being their unpaid on-call nanny. The camera pushes in closer, circling me with a professional steady glide as my expression hardens. Jamal is a 34-year-old black man whose arrogance completely outpaces his bank account. His wife Chloe is a 32-year-old white woman who somehow convinced herself that marrying into a successful black family meant she never had to lift a finger again. They demanded luxury. They despised responsibility. And above all, they hated hearing the word no. 2 weeks ago, they demanded I cancel a critical business trip to London so I could watch their 3 children while they flew to a luxury resort in Cabo. I gave them a very clear, absolute no. What I did not give them was my new address. I had silently sold my suburban house and moved into this penthouse to completely cut ties with their toxicity. The camera slowly orbits to capture my profile as I recall the phone call that ended it all. Jamal was shouting through the phone demanding that family comes first and accusing me of being selfish. In the background I could hear Chloe complaining loudly. She said I was a bitter single woman who owed them this favor because I did not have a real family of my own. Instead of arguing, I simply pressed the end call button. I packed my final box, handed the keys to my realtor, and walked away from their endless demands. I thought my firm rejection was the end of the issue. I was entirely wrong. The camera suddenly whip pans violently, blurring the luxurious penthouse and snapping directly into a chaotic flashback. The camera is now handheld, shaky and frantic, capturing a torrential downpour outside my old suburban house. A yellow taxi slams its brakes in the driveway, sending muddy water splashing across the concrete. The back passenger doors are flung open. 3 young children aged 9, 7, and 4 tumble out into the freezing rain, clutching their small backpacks. The taxi driver does not even put the car in park. He shouts something about the fare already being paid online, slams the doors shut, and peels out of the driveway. The tires screech against the wet pavement, leaving the 3 children completely alone in the pouring rain. The shaky camera follows closely behind the shivering kids as they run up the walkway to the large oak front door of my old house. They ring the doorbell repeatedly. They are expecting their reliable Aunt Maya to open the door with warm towels, hot chocolate, and endless patience, just like she always did when their parents dumped them without warning. The camera pushes in incredibly close on the heavy brass doorknob as it slowly turns. The door swings open, but it is not me standing there. The camera tilts up rapidly from the wet doormat to reveal a towering 60-year-old black man wearing a crisp, tailored suit and a severe expression. This is Judge Harrison. He is the most feared and respected family court judge in the entire county. He is famous for handing down devastating sentences to negligent parents. And exactly 14 days ago, he purchased this house from me. The camera angles over the judge's broad shoulders, looking down at the 3 soaked children shivering on his welcome mat. Judge Harrison stares at them, his sharp eyes narrowing, as his brilliant legal mind attempts to process the bizarre situation. He asks them where their parents are. The oldest child, shivering in the cold breeze, tells him that their dad told them to take a taxi to Aunt Maya's house because he and Mom were going to Mexico for a week. The child innocently holds up a soggy piece of paper with my old address scribbled in Jamal's incredibly messy handwriting. The camera slowly circles the judge, capturing the exact moment his confusion transforms into a cold, terrifying clarity. He is a man who sees the absolute worst of humanity in his courtroom every single day. But having 3 abandoned children dumped onto his private property by a fleeing taxi is a completely new level of audacity. He does not yell. He does not panic. He calmly and gently invites the freezing children inside out of the violent storm. He directs them to his warm living room and hands them thick, dry blankets. The camera glides smoothly beside him as he walks into his pristine kitchen, picking up his cell phone from the marble counter. He dials a number with practiced precision. He is not calling me. He is not calling the local police precinct desk for a simple wellness check. He is calling the direct emergency line for Child Protective Services and the International Airport Police Division. He identifies himself by his judicial title and clearly states that he has a confirmed severe case of child abandonment and criminal endangerment currently sitting in his private residence. He provides the legal names of the parents, reading them from the emergency contact card tucked inside the youngest child's damp backpack. The camera pans around his intense, focused face as he gives the dispatcher a specific and absolute command. He tells them to intercept Jamal and Chloe at the international departure gate before their luxury flight to Cabo takes off. He explicitly orders that they be detained for child abandonment and held without bail until they face him in his own courtroom. The camera holds steady on his face as he ends the call, the ultimate authority figure setting a massive, unyielding trap that my brother walked right into. We cut instantly back to the penthouse. The camera resumes its smooth, elegant orbit around me on the velvet sofa. I take a slow, deliberate sip of my sparkling water. The city lights are beginning to twinkle in the twilight behind me, painting the room in shades of blue and gold. I received the notification of their arrest while I was sitting in the first-class lounge waiting to board my flight to London. My phone lit up with dozens of frantic, hysterical messages from my parents, demanding to know why Jamal and Chloe were being handcuffed at the airport terminal instead of drinking champagne on their vacation. They accused me of ruining the family trip. They accused me of playing a cruel joke by not being home. They had absolutely no idea that my simple refusal to be their doormat had just triggered a federal nightmare they could never escape. They thought I was just the quiet sister they could constantly exploit. They were about to learn that when a silent woman finally speaks, the consequences are absolutely deafening. The camera smoothly tracks backward, gliding over the polished Brazilian hardwood floors as I pull my black leather suitcase out of the walk-in closet. The frantic thumping of the bass from the backyard barbecue is completely muffled the moment I slide the heavy glass balcony door shut. The master bedroom is a sanctuary of false luxury. Every single item in this room, from the custom velvet headboard to the imported silk drapes, was meticulously chosen by my husband Marcus and entirely paid for by my grueling 60-hour work weeks. I do not throw things. I do not cry. I am functioning with a terrifying absolute clarity. I open the suitcase on the pristine white duvet and begin neatly folding my clothes. I bypass the flashy designer gowns Marcus forced me to buy for his ridiculous networking events and pack only the sharp, tailored suits I wear to my firm. Heavy, aggressive footsteps hammer against the mahogany staircase outside the bedroom. The sound vibrates through the floorboards. Marcus is coming. He is not coming to apologize. He is coming to discipline me for stepping out of my assigned role as the silent, obedient ATM. The bedroom door violently swings open, hitting the wall with a sharp crack. Marcus stands in the doorway, his chest heaving, his tailored linen shirt stained with sweat from the summer heat. His face is twisted into a mask of pure indignation. He expects me to be cowering. He expects me to be crying on the edge of the bed, begging for his forgiveness for embarrassing him in front of his precious white brother-in-law Travis. Instead, I calmly zip up my makeup bag and place it into the suitcase. "What kind of childish stunt are you pulling out there?" he demands, stepping into the room with his arms crossed over his chest. His voice is loud, dripping with the arrogant entitlement of a man who has never faced a single consequence in his 34 years of life. "You drop the grill tools and walk away while my mother is hosting half the neighborhood. You are humiliating me, Nia. You are embarrassing me in front of Travis." I do not look up. I smooth the wrinkles out of a charcoal blazer and lay it flat inside the luggage. My silence infuriates him. For 5 years, my silence was his favorite weapon. It meant I was compliant. Now my silence feels like a loaded gun, and he does not know how to disarm it. "Are you throwing another one of your little tantrums?" He sneers, taking another step closer. His tone is dripping with condescension. You think because you work a few long hours crunching boring numbers, you can disrespect my family in our own backyard? Chloe was making a joke. You have absolutely zero sense of humor. I zip the suitcase shut. The sound is loud and final in the tense room. I grip the extendable handle and turn to face him. Marcus is tall, handsome, and completely hollow. He has not held down a legitimate full-time job in 3 years. His entire identity is wrapped up in leasing luxury cars he cannot afford and buying rounds of top-shelf liquor at the country club using my money. Move, I say, my voice dangerously quiet. The camera smoothly tracks backward as I roll the heavy suitcase toward the bedroom exit. I do not break eye contact with him. Marcus's eyes widen in disbelief. He genuinely cannot comprehend that I am leaving. In his narcissistic reality, I am nothing without his family's elevated social status. The camera pushes in for a tight, sharp close-up on Marcus's hand as he aggressively slams his palm flat against the wooden door frame, physically blocking my exit. His fingers grip the molding, his knuckles turning white. His tall frame fills the doorway, casting a dark shadow over me. "You are not going anywhere," he growls, leaning down to try and intimidate me with his height. "If you walk out of this house today, you are done, Nia. I mean it. You leave this marriage and you walk away with absolutely nothing. Do not think you can come crawling back here crying when you realize you cannot survive in the real world without me. I will cut off all your access. You will not get a single dime of my money." I stand perfectly still. The sheer delusion of his statement hangs in the air. His money. The words are so utterly divorced from reality that they bypass anger and land squarely in the realm of comedy. He actually believes the lies he tells his friends. He actually believes he is the provider. I do not argue. I do not raise my voice to remind him that I am a senior financial forensic auditor who literally untangles multi-million-dollar corporate fraud for a living. I do not point out that his entire life is funded by my paycheck. Action speaks louder than a useless argument with a narcissist. I reach into my black leather handbag and slowly pull out my thick designer wallet. I open it with calm, deliberate movements. I slide my fingers into the primary card slot and pull out the heavy metal platinum credit card, the joint account card. "You mean this money, Marcus?" I ask, holding the gleaming metal card up between us. "The same platinum card you secretly swiped exactly 48 hours ago to put a $15,000 down payment on a custom Rolex watch just so you could flex on Travis at the golf course." Marcus's arrogant sneer falters. His eyes dart down to the card and a flash of genuine panic crosses his face. He did not know I tracked the accounts daily. He thought he could hide the purchase in the corporate expense column I manage for him. I flick my wrist and throw the heavy metal card directly at his chest. It hits his linen shirt with a sharp thud and clatters onto the hardwood floor, bouncing against the baseboard. "Keep it," I tell him, my voice dropping to a freezing whisper. "Buy yourself another watch. But you should probably know I just removed myself as the primary guarantor. The account is completely frozen and the creditors are going to be looking exclusively at you for that $15,000 balance." Marcus opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. The illusion of his financial dominance is rapidly evaporating. His hand slowly drops from the doorframe, but I am not finished. I reach deeper into my handbag. My fingers brush against the heavy brass keychain. I pull out the keys to the house. The grand, sprawling suburban estate that his mother Beatrice proudly parades around as her ancestral family home. I hold the keys up. The brass jingles sharply in the quiet room. And since we are talking about leaving with nothing, I continue locking my eyes onto his panicked gaze. "You should probably start packing too. This house, the one your mother loves hosting her lavish parties in, it is not a family trust, Marcus. It never was. The deed is entirely in my name. I am the sole owner. I bought it. I pay the mortgage." I toss the heavy ring of keys. They hit him squarely in the shoulder and drop heavily to the floor, landing right next to the useless platinum card. "I canceled the auto pay for the mortgage this morning," I inform him, delivering the final, devastating blow with absolute precision. "The bank will issue the foreclosure notice by the end of the month. You, your arrogant sister, and your incredibly ungrateful mother have exactly 30 days to vacate my property before the sheriff physically removes you." Marcus's face turns an ashen shade of gray. The smug, entitled golden boy is entirely gone, replaced by a terrified man realizing his entire universe has just been pulled out from under his feet. His chest heaves as he looks down at the keys and the credit card on the floor, the symbols of his fake wealth now entirely worthless. He looks back up at me, his mouth opening to shout, to deny, to fight back. "You cannot do this!" He screams, his voice cracking with pure desperation. "You are my wife. You owe me." "I do not owe you anything but reality," I reply. I grab the handle of my suitcase and push past him. He is too stunned to physically stop me again. He stumbles back against the wall as I roll the luggage out into the hallway. "Nia," he yells, his voice echoing off the high ceilings as he chases me to the top of the stairs. "You are making a massive mistake. I will ruin you." I do not even turn my head. I walk briskly down the grand mahogany staircase, the wheels of my suitcase gliding smoothly over the carpet runner. I reach the front door, grip the heavy brass handle, and pull it open. The humid summer air hits my face, instantly washing away the suffocating atmosphere of the Sterling household. I step out onto the porch and pull the door behind me, slamming it shut with a definitive booming thud that cuts off Marcus's frantic screaming. The camera drops low, instantly tracking the sharp, confident click of my designer heels against the concrete walkway. I walk straight down the driveway, away from the noise of the backyard barbecue, away from the fake luxury, away from the parasitic family that drained my energy for 5 long years. A sleek, black Uber SUV is already idling at the curb, waiting for me. The driver steps out to take my suitcase, but I shake my head, hand him a $100 bill, and load the bag into the trunk myself. I slide into the cool, air-conditioned leather back seat. The heavy car door slams shut, isolating me in perfect quiet. The engine revs and the camera stays fixed on the glowing red taillights as the car speeds away down the tree-lined street, leaving the crumbling facade of my old life entirely in the rearview mirror. The camera transitions seamlessly from the exterior of the speeding vehicle to a tight over-the-shoulder tracking shot positioned perfectly in the back seat of the luxury SUV. The framing looks directly past the curve of my neck, focusing entirely on the sleek silver laptop resting securely on my knees. The interior of the car is a sanctuary of absolute silence, broken only by the rhythmic hum of the engine and the soft, steady tapping of my manicured fingernails against the keyboard. The golden hour sunlight has faded into a deep, bruising twilight, casting long, moving shadows across the leather upholstery. The soft blue glow of the laptop screen illuminates my face, reflecting the cold, calculating precision of a woman who is no longer playing by the rules of a rigged game. For 5 grueling years, I was the invisible architect of the Sterling family's entire financial existence. Marcus loved to boast at his exclusive country club about his brilliant investment strategies and his keen eye for wealth management. He loved to stand in circles of wealthy men swirling 20-year-old scotch in a crystal glass, taking absolute credit for the pristine credit scores, the immaculate tax returns, and the seamless offshore transfers that kept his lifestyle afloat. He never once mentioned that the actual genius behind the curtain was the wife he treated like a glorified administrative assistant. I built their digital empire from the ground up. I wrote the security protocols. I established the holding companies. I routed the automated payments that kept the illusion of their massive generational wealth alive. And because I built every single line of that intricate financial architecture, I knew exactly how to detonate it. The camera pushes in closer, the focus narrowing until the lines of code and financial dashboards fill the entire screen. I open the master administrative portal. This is the central nervous system of Marcus's fake reality. A prompt requests the primary biometric security key. I press my thumb against the sensor pad on the laptop. A green checkmark appears, granting me absolute, unrestricted access to every single account, trust, and corporate entity associated with the Sterling name. My first target is Marcus's personal portfolio. I navigate to the user management console. There it is, his primary login credential, the digital key he uses to funnel my earnings into his extravagant hobbies. With a few swift, deliberate keystrokes, I initiate the command to alter the hierarchical structure of the account. I do not simply lock him out. I obliterate his existence from the system. I revoke his administrative privileges, downgrade his clearance to 0, and scramble the recovery protocols. The screen displays a loading bar that fills rapidly from left to right. When it hits 100%, a dialog box confirms the action. Marcus Sterling is now officially unrecognized by the very financial institution he uses to validate his entire ego. If he tries to log in, the system will not even acknowledge that his username was ever registered. The camera remains locked over my shoulder, capturing the relentless rhythm of my typing. I am not frantic. I am operating with the clinical detached efficiency of a surgeon removing a malignant tumor. Next, I pull up the ledger for Travis's real estate development firm. Travis is Marcus's arrogant brother-in-law, a man who consistently mocked my career choices while secretly relying entirely on my money to save his failing business. 3 years ago, Travis made a series of catastrophic commercial real estate investments. He bought properties that were completely underwater, bleeding cash, faster than he could print it. To save face, Marcus convinced his family that he was personally bailing Travis out as an act of familial solidarity. In reality, Marcus had secretly mandated that I set up an automated high-yield transfer system, siphoning thousands of dollars from my corporate consulting bonuses directly into Travis's business accounts every single month to keep his creditors at bay. I open the recurring transfer dashboard. The screen lists 14 separate automated routing numbers, all feeding directly into Travis's LLC. These payments are the only thing standing between Travis and absolute crushing bankruptcy. I highlight every single line item. The camera focuses sharply on the trackpad as my finger hovers over the delete command. I press down. A warning prompt flashes on the screen asking me to confirm the permanent cancellation of all scheduled corporate transfers. I do not hesitate. I execute the command. Instantly, the financial life support system is severed. The thousands of dollars scheduled to hit Travis's accounts at midnight tonight are halted. By tomorrow morning, his checks will bounce. By Wednesday, his contractors will walk off the job. By Friday, the banks will begin the liquidation process. The illusion of his successful real estate empire has just been violently yanked back into reality. I am not done. I open the master directory, linking the various Sterling family credit lines. This includes the platinum cards, the travel accounts, and the elite black cards used exclusively by Marcus's mother, Beatrice. Beatrice, the woman who spent half a decade making snide, passive-aggressive comments about my background, while gleefully charging $50,000 charity gala expenses to accounts I personally guaranteed. I initiate a sweeping global freeze. I strip my social security number and corporate tax identification from every single line of credit. I trigger a fraud protocol that immediately flags the accounts for review, knowing full well that without my income verifying the balances, the banks will instantly shut them all down. The camera pushes in until the laptop screen is the only thing visible in the frame. I type the final devastating sequence of code. This is the kill switch. I am severing the master connection between my private encrypted servers and the Sterling family network. I hit the enter key with a resounding, satisfying strike. The screen freezes for a fraction of a second. The complex financial dashboards, the sprawling spreadsheets, and the routing numbers all vanish instantly. The entire interface goes completely black. A heartbeat later, massive, bold, unforgiving red letters flash across the center of the dark screen. Server disconnected. The digital cord is permanently cut. The financial blood supply is completely shut off. The empire of lies is officially dead. I slowly close the laptop, the satisfying click of the metallic clasp echoing in the quiet cabin of the SUV. I lean back against the plush leather seat, closing my eyes, letting the absolute magnitude of what I have just accomplished wash over me. The crushing weight of playing the obedient, silent provider has evaporated, leaving behind a soaring, intoxicating sense of absolute freedom. Suddenly, the silence in the car is shattered. My cell phone resting on the leather armrest beside me vibrates violently. The screen lights up, casting a harsh white glare in the dim interior of the car. I slowly turn my head and look down at the locked screen. It is a text message from Marcus. The preview text scrolls across the glass, glowing with frantic, confused desperation. Nia, is the bank system down right now? Why is Mom's black card getting declined at the country club? Fix this immediately. A slow, genuine smile spreads across my face. It is a smile completely devoid of warmth, fueled entirely by the sweet, pure taste of undeniable justice. He still does not understand. He still believes this is a simple technical glitch that his obedient wife will dutifully resolve. He has absolutely no comprehension of the financial apocalypse that is currently descending upon his entire family. I pick up the phone. The device feels heavy, a physical anchor tying me to a past I have just decisively destroyed. I do not reply to the message. I do not offer an explanation. I press my thumb firmly against the power button on the side of the device. I hold it down until the screen goes completely black, the power shutting off entirely. I turn toward the window and press the button to lower the glass. The humid night air rushes into the vehicle, carrying the sounds of the busy city street. We are driving over a bridge, the dark churning water of the river rushing swiftly below us. Without a single second of hesitation, I raise my hand and throw the dead cell phone straight out of the open window. The camera captures the small rectangular device tumbling through the air, disappearing instantly into the black rushing water below. I roll the window back up, sealing out the noise of the city. I settle back into the plush leather seating, folding my hands neatly in my lap. I stare straight ahead into the dark night, ready to embrace a future that belongs entirely, unequivocally to me. The camera executes a painstakingly slow, deliberate dolly movement, creeping inch by inch across the surface of a massive, polished obsidian desk. The lighting here is stark cool and undeniably powerful. We are no longer in the suffocating fake luxury of the suburban estate. We are on the 40th floor of Onyx Capital, in a corner office where the floor-to-ceiling windows offer a commanding panoramic view of the entire Atlanta skyline. My new sanctuary. The camera continues its slow push, finally centering on a brand new smartphone resting perfectly parallel to a sleek silver keyboard. It has been exactly 90 days since I rolled my suitcase out of that house and threw my old phone into the river. 90 days of absolute, uninterrupted silence on my end. But today, my corporate IT department finally finished extracting and decrypting the archived data from my old cloud carrier. They compiled every single blocked communication, every intercepted text, and every redirected voicemail into one consolidated audio file, dropping it securely onto my new device. I reach out my manicured finger, tapping the screen. I press play. The room is instantly filled with the sharp, indignant voice of my mother-in-law, Beatrice. The timestamp indicates this message was left barely 24 hours after I walked out. Nia, this childish silent treatment has gone on long enough. Beatrice declares, her tone dripping with the kind of practiced country club condescension she usually reserves for the waitstaff. Marcus is highly distressed, and frankly, you are embarrassing this family. I expect you to return to the house by dinner and apologize to your husband. Furthermore, my platinum card was inexplicably declined at Neiman Marcus this afternoon. I had to leave 3 pairs of designer shoes at the register. You need to call the bank immediately and fix whatever technical glitch you caused. Grow up, Nia. We will see you at dinner. I do not smile. I simply let the audio track seamlessly to the next message. Beatrice Sterling had not worked a single day in 25 years. She built her entire social persona around being the matriarch of a wealthy, established family. She hosted lavish charity galas, drank overpriced champagne with the wives of local politicians, and looked down her nose at anyone she deemed nouveau riche. She spent 5 years making subtle, passive-aggressive comments about my urban upbringing, constantly implying that I should be profoundly grateful to be welcomed into the prestigious Sterling family. She completely ignored the fact that her prestigious family was entirely funded by my paycheck. When I froze those credit lines, I did not just cut off her spending. I destroyed her entire identity. The audio file skips forward. The timestamp is now 2 weeks later. The voice belongs to Marcus. The arrogant sneer is entirely gone, replaced by a tight, breathless anxiety. Nia, pick up the phone. This isn't funny anymore. I went to the bank today to manually override the freeze on the accounts, and the branch manager told me I have zero authorization. He looked at me like I was a criminal. He said my name isn't on a single holding company. What did you do? Travis is blowing up my phone because the automated transfers to his real estate firm stopped and his contractors are walking off the job site. You need to fix this. You are my wife. You cannot just legally steal my money. I lean back in my ergonomic leather chair, gazing out at the city below. His money. The delusion was staggering. For years, Marcus had played the role of the brilliant financial strategist. He told his friends that he was the mastermind behind our wealth, while I was simply the diligent accountant who balanced his brilliant ledgers. The reality was that Marcus had a credit score lower than a college freshman and a history of catastrophic investments. I was the one who structured the wealth management protocols. I was the one who built the corporate shields. When I revoked his administrative access, I did not steal anything. I simply corrected a clerical error. I removed a parasite from the host. The audio track jumps forward again. We are now 6 weeks into my absence. The panic in Marcus's voice has metastasized into absolute raw terror. Nia, please answer the phone. The bank just served the official foreclosure notice. They are giving us 14 days to vacate the property. Mom is hysterical. She had to cancel her annual summer gala, and the entire neighborhood is whispering about us. I tried to apply for a bridge loan, but every single lender rejected me. They said my debt-to-income ratio is impossible. Nia, I don't know how to pay the electric bill. They shut the power off to the guest wing yesterday. I am begging you, just talk to me. Listening to a man who once physically blocked a doorway and threatened to leave me with nothing, now begging for instructions on how to pay a basic utility bill, is a profound psychological study. Marcus had spent his entire adult life insulated from consequences. He believed the world owed him comfort simply because he existed. He treated me like a machine designed exclusively to generate his lifestyle. Now the machine was unplugged, and he was realizing he did not even know how to operate the manual controls of his own life. The silence between the voicemails is heavy. Then the timeline reaches the 2-month mark. The background noise of the next recording is chaotic. I can hear Beatrice sobbing hysterically in the distance. Nia. Marcus's voice is barely a whisper, cracking under the weight of utter ruin. The IRS is here. They are at the house. They have a federal warrant. They are seizing the cars. They are taking Mom's jewelry. They are auditing 5 years of our tax returns. They say I claimed fraudulent business deductions and offshore tax shelters. I don't understand what they are talking about. You always handled the taxes. You always kept it clean. Why are they doing this? They say I owe hundreds of thousands of dollars in penalties and back taxes. They are talking about federal charges, Nia. Please, I am going to lose everything. I am going to jail. Please. I reach out and trace the rim of a crystal paperweight on my desk. Marcus was entirely correct about one thing. I always handled the taxes. As a senior financial forensic auditor, I knew exactly how to navigate the complex labyrinth of corporate tax law. While we were married, I legally shielded his reckless spending. I categorized his country club memberships, his luxury car leases, and his frequent business trips to Miami under a very specific, perfectly legal corporate umbrella that I personally managed. But the absolute second I filed for divorce and officially severed my name from his LLC, that protective umbrella vanished. Without my certified corporate income validating those massive deductions, the automated algorithms at the Internal Revenue Service immediately flagged his accounts for severe catastrophic discrepancies. He had spent years bragging about writing off his lavish lifestyle. Now the federal government was asking for the receipts, and the only person who knew how to produce them was sitting on the 40th floor of Onyx Capital, completely unreachable. The audio file transitions to the very last message. The timestamp is yesterday afternoon. The voice is not Marcus. It is Travis, his brother-in-law, the failing real estate developer, the man who had constantly made me the punchline of his entitled elitist jokes at family dinners. Travis does not sound panicked. He sounds violently, toxically enraged. His breathing is heavy, his words slurring slightly as if he has been drinking. "Listen to me, you arrogant piece of trash," Travis snarls into the microphone, the audio peaking with the sheer volume of his fury. "I know exactly what you did. My bank just called all of my commercial loans. They said the primary guarantor revoked the collateral backing. You pulled your portfolio out of my guarantor system, didn't you? My entire development project is frozen. The state is putting liens on my properties. You think because you wear a fancy suit and work in a high-rise you can destroy my family's business? You think you are better than us. I will drag you through civil court. I will sue you for breach of contract. I will destroy your reputation in this city, you arrogant black." I tap the screen, cutting the audio off a microsecond before the racial slur leaves his mouth. The silence floods back into the massive corner office. I do not flinch. My heart rate does not elevate. Travis's empty threats are nothing but the dying gasps of a man drowning in his own incompetence. He cannot sue me for breach of contract because my name was never officially on his corporate charter. I was a silent, unlisted guarantor. By removing my backing, I simply let his business stand on its own merits, and exactly as I predicted, it collapsed under the weight of its own fraudulent debt within 90 days. I pick up the receiver of the polished intercom console resting on the edge of my desk. I press the direct line to my senior acquisitions manager. "Yes, Ms. Sterling." Her voice comes through crisp and professional. "Prepare the aggressive acquisition file for Sterling Real Estate Development." I instruct, my voice steady, cool, and absolute. "Their commercial lenders are initiating liquidation protocols this morning. I want Onyx Capital to buy up every single one of their defaulted debts for pennies on the dollar. By the end of the week, I want to own the paper on every property Travis Sterling has ever touched." "Right away, ma'am. Should I prepare the restructuring plan?" "No," I reply, my gaze locking onto the sprawling city skyline, watching the morning light reflect off the glass towers. "We are not restructuring. We are dismantling. Liquidate the assets, clear the lots, and dissolve the company entirely." I place the receiver back on the cradle. The camera slowly pulls back, leaving me perfectly framed against the massive windows, the undisputed architect of their absolute destruction. The camera breaks away from my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window and begins a continuous fluid pan across the massive curved expanse of my workstation. It glides smoothly over 3 ultra-high-definition monitors displaying a cascading waterfall of financial data. The screens are alive with motion. Red deficit markers flash violently. Complex corporate hierarchies represented by intricate digital webs are systematically dissolving in real time. Numbers drop at a staggering pace. This is not a glitch. This is a controlled demolition. The camera captures the reflection of the data streaming across my eyes as I watch Travis Sterling's fraudulent empire burn to the ground. I reach out and tap a single command on my tablet. The camera executes a lightning-fast cutaway from the sterile blue glow of my office directly into the grainy high-contrast feed of a hidden security camera. The angle is high, looking down into the opulent mahogany-lined study of the Sterling family estate. I installed this security system 3 years ago when Beatrice demanded round-the-clock surveillance to protect her supposedly priceless antique collection. Because I set up the network, the master administrator privileges remained permanently tied to my personal server. They never thought to change the passwords. They never thought I would be watching. On the screen, Marcus is pacing like a trapped animal. His designer suit jacket is crumpled on the floor. His tie is loosened and his hands are buried in his hair. The heavy oak door to the study flies open. Chloe storms into the frame. Marcus's sister and Travis's wife is usually the picture of perfectly manicured suburban elite condescension. Today, she looks entirely unhinged. Her blonde hair is disheveled. Her makeup is smeared. She is clutching a stack of manila envelopes so tightly her knuckles are white against the harsh lighting of the study. The camera cuts rapidly back to my workstation, tracking smoothly across my secondary monitor, where the live audio feed from the study synchronizes perfectly with the video. "Where is the money?" Chloe screams, her voice shrill and echoing off the wood-paneled walls. "The bank just sent a courier to our house. A physical courier, Marcus." They served us with default papers. Every single one of Travis's commercial development accounts is frozen. They are bouncing checks to the framing contractors, the electricians, and the concrete suppliers. Travis is locked in the master bathroom having a panic attack and throwing up. You told us you had this under control. The camera whips back to the security feed. Marcus spins around his face a mask of pure, unadulterated panic. I am trying to fix it, he yells back, waving his hands erratically. Nia locked me out of the system. She froze the guarantor accounts. I went to the bank and they treated me like a criminal. They said my name is not on any of the holding companies. I do not have authorization to move a single dollar. Chloe throws the stack of envelopes onto the heavy desk. The papers scatter aggressively across the polished wood. You are the man of the house, she shrieks, taking a step toward him. You are supposed to be managing the wealth. You told us your little wife was just handling the paperwork. How does she have the power to shut down my husband's entire business overnight? The camera glides back to my face. I lean forward, resting my elbows on the cool obsidian surface of my desk, resting my chin on my steepled fingers. A cold, calculating smile touches the corners of my mouth. They truly have absolutely no idea. They lived in a bubble of supreme arrogance, completely blind to the reality of their own survival. Travis was never a brilliant real estate developer. He was a reckless, incompetent fraud. 5 years ago, when I first took over the family's financial structuring to clean up Marcus's reckless credit card debt, I discovered the rotting tumor at the center of the Sterling family legacy. The camera pans slowly across my center monitor, zooming in on a sprawling digital flowchart. It illustrates the exact anatomy of Travis's business. He was running a textbook miniature Ponzi scheme. He was soliciting millions of dollars from private local investors, promising them exclusive equity in high-end luxury condominium developments. But he never actually built the condominiums. The permits were fake. The zoning applications were forged. He was using the initial capital from new investors to pay fake dividend yields to the old investors, creating a flawless illusion of massive profit. Meanwhile, he was skimming hundreds of thousands of dollars off the top to fund his collection of vintage sports cars, his exotic vacations, and Beatrice's endless charity galas. When I uncovered the depth of the fraud, my first instinct was to run. But I was already legally married to Marcus. Our finances were technically commingled in the eyes of the law. If the Securities and Exchange Commission caught wind of Travis's amateur criminal enterprise, the federal investigation would absolutely bleed over into my accounts. I was a rising star in forensic accounting. An association with a federal financial crime would have instantly, permanently destroyed my entire career. I would have lost my licenses, my reputation, and my freedom. I could not allow their profound stupidity to take me down. So I became their silent, invisible savior. The camera tracks my hand as I scroll through the archived transaction logs. For 5 agonizing years, I systematically sanitized their crimes. I legally firewalled my assets. I created complex, legitimate corporate shells to absorb the shock of Travis's impending failures. I used my own massive corporate bonuses to quietly inject legitimate capital into his accounts, covering the phantom interest payments before the investors could demand a federal audit. I worked 70-hour weeks untangling complex corporate fraud for my clients, only to come home and spend my nights secretly plugging the gaping holes in my brother-in-law's illegal enterprise to keep him out of a federal penitentiary. I did all of this while sitting at their lavish holiday dinners listening to Chloe mock my clothes. I did this while Travis made racist microaggressions about my urban upbringing. I did this while Beatrice told her friends that Marcus had rescued me from a life of poverty. They insulted the very woman who was actively keeping them from wearing orange jumpsuits. And now my protective firewall is entirely permanently removed. The camera cuts rapidly back to the security feed in the study. Marcus collapses into the heavy leather chair behind the desk, burying his face in his hands. He looks completely defeated. The reality of his absolute impotence is finally crushing the breath out of him. I do not know what to do, Chloe, he stammers, his voice cracking. The IRS was here yesterday. They are auditing everything. They took Mom's cars. They took the jewelry. Nia stopped covering the tax liabilities. I tried to log into the corporate portal to transfer funds from the emergency reserves, but the system says I do not exist. Chloe's posture changes. The aggressive anger deflates, replaced by a chilling hollow terror. She grips the edge of the desk, her knuckles trembling. "What do you mean the system says you do not exist?" she asks, her voice dropping to a panicked whisper. Marcus Travis has a $20 million balloon payment due on the waterfront property by Friday. If we do not wire that money, the investors are going to file a class action lawsuit. They will seize our house. They will take my kids' college funds. We are going to lose everything. Marcus looks up at her, his eyes wide and bloodshot. "I do not have it," he confesses, his voice hollow and empty. "There is no money, Chloe." Nia shut off the corporate cards. She revoked the corporate backing. "We have absolutely nothing." The camera pushes in tight on Chloe's face on the security monitor. The absolute horror dawns on her features. Her perfect world is vaporizing. "But you promised me!" She screams, tears finally spilling over her eyelashes and cutting tracks through her expensive foundation. "You looked Travis in the eye yesterday, and you promised him this was just a temporary banking freeze. We are going bankrupt, Marcus. You said there was an institutional investment fund injecting $5 million into the holding account this morning to cover the spread." "Where is the $5 million, Marcus?" The camera whips back to my desk. I reach out and pick up the sleek black receiver of my internal office phone. The cold, satisfying realization washes over me. Marcus had lied to his own sister. He was so terrified of admitting his total lack of control that he invented a phantom $5 million bailout, hoping he could somehow bully me into fixing the mess before the deadline. He actually believed he could still command me to save them. I pressed the speed dial button for my senior acquisitions manager. "Yes, Ms. Sterling," her voice responds instantly through the speaker. "Prepare the final hostile takeover documents for Sterling Real Estate Development." I command, my voice echoing with absolute authority in the quiet office. "Travis Sterling has officially defaulted. We are taking everything." The camera drops smoothly from my position at the window and executes a rapid, seamless transition out into the bustling, brightly lit corridor of the 40th floor. It instantly locks onto Elena, my senior executive assistant, in a high-speed tracking shot. The lens follows her back directly over her shoulder as she practically sprints across the polished marble floor. Her designer heels click frantically against the stone, a sharp staccato rhythm of pure corporate panic. She is weaving past junior analysts and ignoring the ringing phones at the reception desk. She clutches a sleek silver tablet tightly to her chest, her knuckles white, her breathing shallow and rapid. The camera tracks her as she bursts through the heavy frosted glass doors of my corner office without even knocking. The heavy doors swing shut behind her, instantly cutting off the ambient noise of the trading floor, isolating us in the vast, quiet space of my sanctuary. I do not jump. I do not startle. I slowly turn away from the panoramic view of the Atlanta skyline, smoothing the fabric of my tailored suit jacket. Elena is standing in the center of the room, her chest heaving. She is a veteran in the financial sector, a woman who has navigated hostile corporate takeovers and ruthless market crashes without breaking a sweat. Today, however, her eyes are wide with absolute disbelief. "We have a massive critical breach," she says, her voice trembling slightly as she crosses the room and places the silver tablet flat on the center of my obsidian desk. It just hit the automated high-risk underwriting queue for Vanguard Horizon Trust. Vanguard Horizon Trust is a shadow subsidiary of Onyx Capital. It is a completely anonymous, aggressive private equity fund I established 3 years ago to manage high-yield distressed debt. To the outside world, it is just a faceless, deep-pocketed corporate entity operating behind walls of ironclad non-disclosure agreements. There is absolutely no public record linking my name to Vanguard Horizon. I step up to the desk and look down at the glowing screen. Travis Sterling and Marcus Sterling just submitted a joint corporate loan application. Elena explains, tapping the screen to bring up the executive summary. They applied for an emergency bridge loan. The requested capital injection is exactly $5 million. A cold, dark amusement washes over me. Marcus was actually trying to manifest the pathetic lie he had told his sister Chloe on the security camera barely an hour ago. He had backed himself into a corner, promising a phantom $5 million bailout to save Travis's collapsing Ponzi scheme. In a state of absolute blind desperation, they had scoured the financial markets for any private equity firm willing to issue a massive uncollateralized loan with zero notice. They had unknowingly submitted their fraudulent lifeline request directly to the very woman who was actively suffocating them. I scroll down the digital application. The arrogance is staggering. They are requesting the funds to be wired by the end of the business week, citing an immediate real estate acquisition opportunity. They are lying to the lender just as easily as they lie to their own family. But a $5 million private equity loan requires substantial collateral. Marcus's personal accounts are frozen. Travis's commercial properties are entirely underwater and currently being aggressively targeted for liquidation by my own acquisitions department. They possess absolutely zero liquid assets. What did they leverage, I ask, keeping my voice perfectly level. Elena swallows hard, stepping back from the desk. You need to look at page 4. I swipe the screen, bringing up the asset collateralization schedule attached to the application. My eyes scan the scanned PDF of the property deed they submitted as their primary guarantee. The breath completely stops in my lungs. The temperature in the room seems to drop 20 degrees. It is a deed to a 20-acre commercial plot of land located in a rapidly developing suburb of Atlanta. It is prime, highly coveted real estate. It is also the sole physical asset that belonged to my late biological mother. My mother worked as a public school teacher for 35 years. She saved every single spare penny she ever earned to purchase that land outright. It was her legacy. It was the inheritance she left to me, to ensure I would always have a foundation no matter what happened in life. I had kept the original physical deed locked inside a biometric fireproof safe hidden in the back of the walk-in closet at the Sterling estate. I had not taken it with me when I left because I believed it was secure. I believed there were lines even Marcus would not cross. I was wrong. Marcus had broken into my private safe. He had stolen the physical deed to my dead mother's legacy, and he was now using it as collateral to save the brother-in-law, who had spent 5 years mocking my upbringing. The camera pushes in painfully slow on my face. The absolute stillness of my posture masks a violent volcanic rage. They did not just steal from me. They violated the only sacred thing I had left. Marcus knew exactly how much that land meant to me. He knew it was untouchable. And yet, in his selfish, panicked desperation, he offered it up on a silver platter to a faceless corporation. I scroll down to the bottom of the digital contract. The camera focuses sharply on the signature line. There are 3 signatures required for a collateral transfer of this magnitude. The first belongs to Travis, signing as the primary beneficiary. The second belongs to Marcus, signing as the corporate guarantor. The third signature line belongs to the legal owner of the property. There, written in hurried, sloppy blue ink, is my name, Nia Sterling. It is a forgery. It is not even a sophisticated forgery. The loop of the N is entirely wrong. The slant of the letters is completely off. Marcus was clearly shaking when he signed it. He had forged my signature on a binding federal financial document, assuming that an anonymous private equity firm processing thousands of applications a week would never look closely enough to verify the handwriting against my government identification. He thought he could steal my mother's land, secure the $5 million, save his fake empire, and figure out how to replace the deed before I ever noticed it was missing. The sheer audacity is breathtaking. He is not just a narcissist. He is a reckless, incompetent criminal. Elena is pacing the floor behind me, her professional composure completely shattering. Nia, this is a textbook violation of Title 18 of the United States Code, she says, her voice rising in panic. It is identity theft. It is bank fraud. It is wire fraud. They used a digital interstate network to submit forged financial instruments to secure a multi-million-dollar corporate loan. If the principal defaults, the fund seizes your mother's land. We cannot process this. We are legally obligated to report this immediately. Elena reaches across the desk, grabbing the sleek black receiver of the landline. I am calling the compliance department. She continues dialing the internal extension rapidly. We need to alert the corporate legal team. We have to forward this entire application directly to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Marcus and Travis just committed federal felonies. They are looking at 20 years in a federal penitentiary. I am shutting this down right now. The camera tracks my hand as I reach out with absolute calm precision. I press my finger firmly down on the receiver hook, instantly disconnecting the call. The dial tone dies. Elena freezes, staring at me in complete shock. The receiver is still clutched in her hand. Nia. She whispers, her eyes wide with confusion. What are you doing? We cannot touch this. It is a radioactive federal crime. If we engage with this application, we could be held liable. I slowly pull my hand back from the phone. I look down at the tablet at the forged signature defacing my mother's legacy. The burning rage inside me compresses, crystallizing into something cold, sharp, and utterly deadly. Reporting them to the FBI right now would be swift justice. The authorities would arrest them, they would be indicted, and the trial would drag on for years. They would have time to hire defense attorneys. They would have time to formulate excuses. They would have time to hide behind Beatrice's social connections and plead ignorance. That is not good enough. Jail is a consequence. I do not want consequences. I want total, absolute annihilation. I look up at Elena. My eyes are entirely devoid of emotion. Do not call compliance. I instruct, my voice dropping to a freezing whisper that commands the entire room. Do not alert the legal department. Do not involve the authorities. Elena lowers the receiver, her hands trembling slightly. Then what do we do? Send the approval email, I command, turning my gaze back to the sprawling city outside my window. Push the application through the priority underwriting queue. Approve the $5 million loan unconditionally. Schedule the final in-person contract signing for next week at the downtown corporate office. Tell them the funds will be released the moment the physical ink dries on the paper. Elena stares at me, her jaw slightly open, unable to comprehend the magnitude of what I'm ordering. But Nia, she protests weakly. It is a fraudulent contract. It is a forged signature. I turn back to face her, my expression locked into a mask of pure, absolute vengeance. I know, I reply. Let them put the noose around their own necks. The camera executes a sharp, aggressive cut from the pristine corporate heights of Onyx Capital to the suffocating mahogany interior of the Sterling family study. The visual transition is jarring, entirely intentional. The camera does not sit level. It is locked into a severe Dutch angle, tilting heavily to the left. The slanted perspective instantly creates a profound sense of psychological instability. The opulent room with its expensive leather-bound books and imported Persian rugs suddenly looks like a luxury ocean liner moments before it slips beneath the freezing waves. The men inside are completely oblivious to the tilt of their universe. Marcus and Travis are standing by a heavy antique liquor cabinet. Travis is holding a crystal decanter, splashing generous amounts of 20-year-old single malt scotch into two heavy glasses. The amber liquid sloshes wildly over the ice, a careless display of premature celebration. Marcus is leaning over his laptop, the screen casting a pale, desperate glow across his flushed face. A sharp metallic ping echoes from the computer speakers. Marcus slams his hand flat against the desk, his eyes widening as he reads the notification banner sliding across the top of his screen. He lets out a loud, breathless bark of laughter that borders on absolute hysteria. "We got it!" he shouts, spinning around to face his brother-in-law. The email just came through. Vanguard Horizon Trust approved the application. $5 million, Travis. Unconditional approval. The funds will be released the moment we sign the final physical contracts next week at their downtown office. Travis shoves one of the scotch glasses into Marcus's chest, his face splitting into a wide, arrogant grin. The crushing terror that had him hyperventilating in the bathroom just hours ago has completely vanished instantly, replaced by the toxic, unearned confidence of a mediocre man handed a lifeline. "I told you," Travis boasts, taking a massive swallow of his drink. "I told you we did not need that arrogant, ungrateful woman. She really thought she could bankrupt me. She actually thought she could pull her little financial safety net and watch my entire real estate empire collapse. $5 million cash, Marcus. Do you have any idea what I can do with that kind of liquidity right now? I am going to buy out my weakest partners. I am going to fast-track the waterfront project. I am going to make so much money she will look like a pathetic amateur. The camera slowly pans across the tilted room, capturing the sheer delusion radiating from both men. They are celebrating a phantom victory. They are toasting to a loan issued by the very woman they are actively insulting. Marcus takes a heavy gulp of his scotch, the alcohol feeding his dangerous, bruised ego. You should have seen her face when she walked out, he says, his voice dripping with condescension. She was so smug. She actually thought she held all the cards because her name was on the deed to this house, and she managed the corporate credit lines. She forgets who I am. She forgets that I am a sterling. We do not just roll over and lose. Travis laughs, a harsh grating sound that bounces off the slanted walls. She is just a number cruncher, Marcus. A glorified calculator in a pencil skirt. She got a little taste of our lifestyle and forgot her place. But you handled it perfectly. You stepped up. Marcus puffs out his chest, adjusting the lapels of his wrinkled suit. The validation from Travis, the brother-in-law he has always secretly envied, acts like a powerful narcotic. It was almost too easy, Marcus brags, slamming his empty glass down on the desk. She thought she was so smart hiding her personal documents. But she is careless. She left the combination to her biometric safe, written down in one of her old tax ledgers. I cracked it in 2 minutes. And her mother's land deed was just sitting right there, practically begging to be leveraged. The camera pushes in slightly, magnifying the sheer reckless stupidity etched across Marcus's face. He is not confessing to a crime. He is bragging about a masterstroke of business acumen. I barely even had to practice the signature, Marcus continues, waving his hand dismissively. I found an old mortgage document she signed last year, traced the letters a few times, and slapped it right on the bottom of the Vanguard collateral agreement. These massive private equity firms process thousands of applications a week. They do not care whose name is at the bottom of the page as long as the asset valuation checks out. 20 acres of prime suburban commercial zoning is all the proof they need. I secured $5 million with a $10 pen and 5 minutes of effort. Travis claps Marcus hard on the shoulder, nearly spilling the rest of his drink. You are a genius. He praises, his voice thick with unearned relief. We use the $5 million to clear my defaulted loans. We generate the revenue from the new condominium pre-sales, and we buy back the deed from Vanguard Horizon before Nia ever realizes her precious little inheritance was temporarily borrowed. It is a victimless transaction. The heavy oak doors of the study swing open. Beatrice steps into the room. The camera maintains its severe tilt, making Beatrice look imposing and distorted as she enters. She is wearing a silk lounging robe holding a delicate crystal wine glass filled with Pinot Noir. Her face is flushed with the excitement of overhearing the celebration. The tears and hysterical sobbing from yesterday are entirely forgotten. The sterling matriarch has regained her footing. I heard shouting, she says, a predatory smile stretching across her perfectly preserved face. Tell me you fixed the banking issue, Marcus. Tell me I can call the event coordinator and unfreeze the deposit for the summer gala. We did more than fix it, Mom, Marcus says, rushing over to her. I secured a $5 million corporate bridge loan through a private equity firm. We are entirely liquid. Travis's business is saved, and we have more than enough capital to cover the back taxes the IRS is demanding. We do not need Nia's money anymore. We are completely independent. Beatrice lets out a long, dramatic sigh of relief, bringing her hand to her chest. Thank God, she breathes, taking a delicate sip of her wine. I knew you would handle it, Marcus. I knew you would not let that woman destroy our family reputation. It has been an absolute nightmare pretending everything is fine while the country club gossips about my declined credit cards. She steps further into the room, looking between Marcus and Travis. Her eyes harden, her posture straightening as she shifts from relief to malicious plotting. Now that we have our own capital, Beatrice says, her tone turning razor sharp. You need to strike first, Marcus. You need to file the divorce papers before she does. Marcus looks slightly taken aback, the reality of permanently severing the marriage briefly penetrating his drunken celebration. Mom, we just got the approval. We have not even signed the final contracts yet. Do not be weak. Beatrice snaps, her voice slicing through the room like a whip. She humiliated you. She threw her house keys at you like you were the hired help. She tried to leave you bankrupt and embarrassed in front of our entire social circle. You cannot let her get away with that. You need to hire the most vicious, predatory divorce attorney in Atlanta. Travis nods in enthusiastic agreement, swirling the ice in his glass. Beatrice is right, Marcus. You have to blindside her. She thinks she has the upper hand because the house is in her name. She does not have the upper hand? Beatrice interrupts, her eyes gleaming with toxic vindication. She is a working-class girl who got lucky. We are Sterlings. We know how the legal system works. You drag her into civil court, Marcus. You claim you are the primary manager of her business assets. You demand alimony to maintain the lifestyle you have become accustomed to. You freeze her corporate accounts during the discovery phase. You bleed her dry in legal fees until she is forced to sell this house and give you half just to pay her attorneys. Marcus slowly begins to nod, a dark, malicious smile spreading across his face as he absorbs his mother's venomous advice. You are right, he says, his voice hardening with newfound resolve. She wants to play rough. I will show her rough. I will take half of everything she built. I will leave her with absolutely nothing. She will have to start over from the bottom, exactly where she belongs. The three of them raise their glasses in a toast to their brilliant, flawless victory. They are triumphant. They are untouchable. They are completely and utterly doomed. The camera begins a painstakingly slow, deliberate pan away from the celebrating trio. It glides past the antique globe, past the rows of leather-bound encyclopedias no one has ever read, and past the empty crystal decanter. The severe tilt of the Dutch angle makes the camera movement feel dizzying and inevitable. The focus slowly sharpens on a small, unassuming object resting quietly on the middle shelf of the bookcase. It is a sleek, matte black smart speaker. It blends perfectly into the shadows of the study. It is a device Marcus purchased 2 years ago because he wanted to be able to command the lighting and music in the room with his voice. What Marcus failed to understand, what he fundamentally lacked the technical literacy to comprehend, is that every smart device in this massive estate was integrated into a unified digital ecosystem. An ecosystem entirely built, secured, and administered by his wife. The camera pushes in extremely close on the top of the smart speaker. A solid glowing blue ring of LED light illuminates the top rim of the device. It pulses softly in perfect rhythm with the voices echoing across the room. The speaker is not passive. It is actively triggered in continuous listening mode. It is tied directly to Nia's master cloud account. The microphone is crystal clear, picking up every single syllable bouncing off the mahogany walls. It has recorded Travis admitting to his massive financial default. It has recorded Beatrice conspiring to launch a fraudulent civil lawsuit. And most importantly, it has recorded Marcus Sterling clearly, joyfully, and explicitly confessing to breaking into a safe, stealing a physical land deed, and forging a signature to commit multi-million-dollar federal wire fraud. The glowing blue ring pulses one final time as the audio file finishes its seamless, instantaneous upload directly to the encrypted servers located on the 40th floor of Onyx Capital. The trap has not just been set. The trap has snapped entirely shut. The morning sun cuts a harsh, unforgiving angle through the heavy velvet drapes of the Sterling family study. The intoxicating high of last night's drunken celebration has entirely evaporated, replaced by the suffocating, crushing weight of reality. The camera abruptly splits right down the center of the screen, establishing a stark, visceral contrast between two completely different universes. On the left side of the split screen, the mahogany-paneled study feels like a claustrophobic cage. The air is thick with the smell of stale scotch and raw panic. Travis Sterling is pacing the length of the Persian rug. He is sweating profusely. Dark, damp patches stain the underarms of his wrinkled linen shirt. His hands tremble as he obsessively checks the screen of his phone, watching the notifications pile up from furious contractors and hostile investors demanding their money. On the right side of the screen, the environment is a masterclass in clinical, predatory precision. We see the interior of a soundproof glass-walled compliance suite on the 39th floor of Onyx Capital. The lighting is cool and sharp. Sitting perfectly upright at a polished steel desk is Arthur Penhaligon. Arthur is my senior director of risk management. He is a former federal prosecutor, a man who left the Department of Justice because he preferred the ruthless efficiency of private equity. He is impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, his expression completely devoid of human empathy. He is staring at a digital copy of the forged property deed on his monitor. Travis abruptly stops pacing on the left side of the screen. He lunges across the room and grabs Marcus by the lapels of his suit jacket. Marcus stumbles backward, hitting the edge of the heavy oak desk. "Listen to me, you arrogant fool," Travis hisses, his voice dropping to a frantic, terrified whisper. The automated underwriting system flagged the application for manual review. They need a verbal verification before they release the $5 million. If they figure out that signature is fake, we are both going to federal prison. Do you understand me, Marcus? The investors have already filed complaints with the state attorney general. If this money does not hit my corporate accounts by tomorrow morning, I am a dead man. You better not mess this up. Marcus aggressively shoves Travis's hands off his chest, smoothing his jacket with an offended scowl. He refuses to let his brother-in-law see him sweat. He is a sterling, and he fundamentally believes that rules do not apply to him. "Calm down, Travis," Marcus snaps, adjusting his posture and lifting his chin. "It is a standard banking protocol. They are just ticking boxes for their compliance department. They do not actually care about the deed. They just want a recorded yes so they can process the wire transfer and collect their exorbitant interest fees. I handle these corporate drones all the time. Just keep your mouth shut and let me do the talking." On the right side of the screen, Arthur reaches out with a steady hand and presses a physical red button on his telecommunications console. A digital recording interface immediately pops up on his monitor. A green sound wave begins tracking across the screen, indicating that the federal recording protocols are officially active. He picks up the sleek black receiver and dials the direct number Marcus provided on the fraudulent loan application. The sharp, shrill ringing of the telephone pierces the heavy silence in the sterling study. Travis physically flinches violently, wiping a bead of sweat from his forehead. Marcus takes a slow, deep breath, squares his shoulders, and picks up the receiver on the third ring. He instantly projects his deepest, most authoritative corporate voice. "Marcus Sterling speaking," he says, resting his free hand confidently on his hip. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling." Arthur replies, his voice perfectly modulated, smooth, and entirely bureaucratic. "My name is Arthur Penhaligon. I am a senior compliance officer with Vanguard Horizon Trust, calling on a recorded line regarding your expedited bridge loan application. I just need to verify a few minor details before our underwriters can finalize the disbursement of your $5 million capital request." Marcus shoots a smug, triumphant look at Travis, giving him a quick thumbs up. Travis exhales a shaky breath, leaning heavily against the bookcase. "Of course," Arthur Marcus replies, layering on his signature country club charm. "We are looking forward to closing this deal quickly. I understand you need to cross your T's and dot your I's. What can I help you with today?" Arthur's eyes remain locked on the forged signature glaring from his monitor. The green recording wave pulses steadily, capturing every single syllable. "Excellent," Arthur says, typing a sequence of keystrokes that echo softly through the receiver. "We have reviewed your asset collateralization schedule. I see you are leveraging a 20-acre commercial property located in the northern suburbs. The valuation is certainly sufficient to cover the $5 million principal. However, our legal department flagged a slight discrepancy regarding the title ownership." The color instantly drains from Marcus's face. His arrogant smile vanishes. Travis pushes himself off the bookcase, his eyes widening in pure terror. He steps closer to Marcus, trying to listen to the audio bleeding through the earpiece. "A discrepancy," Marcus asks, his voice tightening noticeably. "I assure you the deed is completely unencumbered. There are no liens on that property." "I am not questioning the equity, Mr. Sterling," Arthur replies smoothly, expertly, reeling the target back in. "The issue is simply one of authorization. The public property records indicate that the deed is held entirely in the name of your wife, Nia Sterling. As you are acting as the primary corporate guarantor for a loan benefiting a third-party entity, we are legally required to verify that the property owner is fully aware of and explicitly consents to this massive liability. Marcus swallows hard. The silence stretches for 3 agonizing seconds on the left side of the screen. Travis vigorously runs a hand across his sweaty neck, mouthing the word yes over and over again. Marcus grips the edge of the desk, his knuckles turning white. He has reached the point of no return. Yes, absolutely, Marcus lies, his voice gaining a false force strength. My wife is completely aware of the transaction. She is a senior financial auditor herself. We handle all of our investment portfolios together. She fully supports leveraging the land to secure the capital for my brother-in-law's development project. Arthur leans forward slightly in his chair. The predator is moving in for the kill. That is wonderful to hear, Mr. Sterling, Arthur says, his tone completely devoid of suspicion. Just to ensure absolute compliance with federal lending statutes, I need to ask you a very specific question for the official record. On page 4 of the collateral agreement, there is a signature authorizing the transfer of the deed into our holding trust in the event of a default. Can you confirm for the record that your wife, Nia Sterling, personally signed this binding legal document? Travis grabs Marcus by the shoulder, digging his fingers in painfully hard, silently demanding that he finish the lie. Marcus closes his eyes, sealing his own fate. Yes, she signed it, Marcus answers firmly. Arthur presses the final nail into the coffin. And can you confirm, Mr. Sterling, that she signed this document of her own free will without coercion and in the physical presence of your retained legal counsel? The sheer weight of the lie hangs heavily in the study. Marcus is officially claiming not only that Nia consented, but that a licensed attorney witnessed the forgery. He is layering a conspiracy charge on top of the wire fraud. He is handing me a weapon so devastating it will leave absolutely nothing standing in its wake. Yes, I can confirm that, Marcus says, opening his eyes and looking fiercely at Travis. My wife signed the documents in front of our family attorney. Everything is perfectly legal and above board. We are ready to proceed with the wire transfer immediately. On the right side of the screen, Arthur stops typing. A cold ghost of a smile finally touches his lips. The trap is completely fully secured. Thank you for that explicit confirmation, Mr. Sterling. Arthur says, his voice dropping an octave, the bureaucratic warmth instantly vanishing, replaced by chilling finality. That is all the information we require at this time. We will send an approval email shortly, detailing the next steps. Please be advised that the physical contract signing is scheduled for next Tuesday at our downtown corporate headquarters. We expect you both to be there. Absolutely, Marcus says, letting out a massive breath of relief. We will see you on Tuesday, Arthur. Thank you for your exceptional service. Arthur does not say goodbye. He simply ends the call. The split-screen effect violently fractures. The left side, featuring Marcus and Travis, celebrating wildly high-fiving each other and shouting in pure delusional victory, rapidly shrinks and fades to black. The camera now entirely focuses on the sleek, modern environment of the Onyx Capital Compliance Office. Arthur sits back in his leather chair. He taps his mouse, clicking the red button on his screen to stop the recording. A dialog box appears, asking him to name the file. He types the name Sterling Confession and hits save. He then reaches out and picks up the direct, secure line that connects straight to my desk on the floor above. I answer on the first ring. The audio recording of the fraudulent phone statement is saved. Arthur says, his voice precise and professional, lacking any trace of hesitation. Federal evidence piece number 1 is complete. Excellent, I reply, my voice filtering through his speakerphone, cold and absolute. Send them the official approval email. Tell them to wear their best suits on Tuesday. Let them put the noose around their own necks. The camera snaps to an extreme close-up of a heavy brass hand stamp. My hand grips the solid wooden handle. I bring it down with a violent echoing slam against a stack of thick legal documents. The bright red ink bleeds instantly into the crisp white paper. Approved. The sound cracks through the absolute silence of the room like a gunshot. I lift the stamp. The camera pulls back, executing a wide, sweeping shot to reveal the sprawling, sterile expanse of a Class A executive boardroom. We are no longer in Atlanta. We are on the 65th floor of the Vanguard Horizon Trust corporate headquarters in downtown Chicago. Making them fly across state lines to execute the final contract was not just a corporate power play, it was a calculated legal maneuver. The moment Marcus transmitted that forged deed across state lines, he triggered federal interstate wire fraud statutes. By forcing them to physically sign the disbursement documents in Illinois, I have handed the federal government jurisdictional checkmate. The room is a masterpiece of corporate intimidation. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer a dizzying panoramic view of the freezing gray waters of Lake Michigan. The conference table is a single massive slab of black marble. It looks less like a negotiation table and more like an altar prepared for a sacrifice. The heavy glass door slides open. Special Agent Thomas Reynolds walks into the room. He is a 20-year veteran of the FBI Financial Crimes Division. He is accompanied by 2 junior agents and my lead corporate litigator. Reynolds carries a thick black briefcase. He looks around the polished room, adjusting the cuffs of his navy suit. The audio-visual feeds are active. Ms. Sterling Reynolds says, his voice low and strictly professional. We have hardwired microphones concealed in the ceiling baffles and beneath the center console of the table. The cameras are recording from 4 different angles. We have a direct feed to the mobile command unit, parked in the subterranean garage. I nod slowly, running my hand flat across the cool marble surface of the table. You reviewed the preliminary wire transfers, I ask? Reynolds opens his briefcase, pulling out a pristine physical copy of Marcus's forged application. We have everything we need. My forensic accounting team spent the last 48 hours tearing through Travis Sterling's corporate accounts based on the access portals you legally provided. It is exactly as you outlined. Travis has been operating a massive high-yield Ponzi scheme. The structural deficit is currently hovering around $12 million. The money he requested from Vanguard Horizon was explicitly earmarked to pay off his earliest investors to prevent a class action lawsuit. And the deed I press, keeping my eyes locked on the forged document in his hands. Reynolds places the paper gently on the table. He looks at me with a mixture of professional respect and quiet disbelief. The signature is a confirmed forgery. Our handwriting analysts matched it against your official federal identification documents within an hour. Your husband stole a physical asset deed and forged your legal consent to secure a $5 million corporate loan. Combined with the interstate travel and the digital transmission, we are looking at multiple counts of aggravated identity theft, bank fraud, and conspiracy. The junior agents begin placing leather-bound contract binders at the far end of the table. They arrange the pens perfectly parallel to the paper. They are setting the stage for the final act. Are you entirely certain you want to be in the room when this happens? Ms. Sterling Reynolds asks, watching my face carefully. We can execute the arrests the moment pen touches paper. You can monitor the situation from the adjoining observation suite. It is highly unusual for the informant to remain physically present during a takedown of this magnitude, especially when the primary targets are immediate family members. I turn to face the seasoned federal agent. My expression is completely hollow. I feel absolutely no residual attachment to the men who are about to walk into this room. They are not my family. They are parasites who fed on my labor, my sanity, and my mother's legacy. I am not an informant, Agent Reynolds, I reply, my voice echoing softly against the glass walls. I am the senior executive officer of Vanguard Horizon Trust. They submitted a loan application to my firm. I am simply here to close the deal. I want to look my husband in the eye the moment he realizes he has signed away his freedom. Reynolds studies me for a fraction of a second, before giving a short, definitive nod. He understands. He steps back, pressing 2 fingers to the earpiece hidden in his right ear. He listens to the encrypted radio traffic for a moment before looking back up at me. Target packages are in the building. He announces the atmosphere in the room, instantly shifting from preparatory to active tactical engagement. They just cleared the ground floor security checkpoint. They are approaching the express elevators. My senior assistant Elena steps into the room carrying a sleek digital tablet. She places it on the table in front of me and taps the screen. A high-definition live feed from the lobby security cameras floods the display. The camera angle looks slightly down, capturing the gleaming marble expanse of the ground floor lobby. The revolving glass doors spin, pushing three familiar figures into the building. Marcus Travis and Beatrice Sterling have arrived. I stare at the screen, a cold, dark amusement twisting in my chest. They dressed for a coronation. Marcus is wearing a bespoke navy suit that probably cost more than my first car. His hair is perfectly styled. He walks with a ridiculous, exaggerated swagger, throwing his shoulders back and checking his reflection in the polished glass of the security turnstiles. He actually believes he is a financial mastermind. He believes he outsmarted a multi-billion-dollar private equity firm. Travis walks beside him, looking flushed and manic. He is sweating despite the freezing Chicago weather outside. He clutches a slim leather briefcase tightly to his chest. He looks exactly like a desperate, degenerate gambler walking into a casino with a stolen credit card. He is practically vibrating with the anticipation of the $5 million wire transfer that will miraculously save him from ruin. And then there is Beatrice. I lean closer to the screen, resting my hands on the edge of the marble table. The sheer staggering arrogance of bringing Beatrice to a corporate loan signing is almost impossible to comprehend. But of course, she could not stay away. She could not resist the opportunity to fly to Chicago, stay in a five-star hotel on a maxed-out credit card, and witness her golden son secure the family legacy. She is wearing a full-length cashmere coat and holding a designer handbag that screams desperate nouveau riche. She treats the corporate security guards with visible disdain, waving them away as Marcus hands over their temporary visitor passes. They are completely blind to the reality of their situation. They have spent their entire lives shielded by wealth and privilege, assuming the rules of the real world would simply bend to accommodate their desires. They think they are walking into a boardroom to collect their salvation. They have absolutely no idea they are walking into a federally monitored kill box. Agent Reynolds motions to his team. The junior agents step back, retreating toward the heavy oak doors that lead to the adjoining observation suite. They will remain completely out of sight until the exact moment the trap is triggered. Reynolds buttons his suit jacket, transforming instantly back into the role of a corporate legal advisor. "We are positioned," he says quietly, stepping to the side of the room and clasping his hands behind his back. "The floor is yours, Ms. Sterling." I watch the digital feed on the tablet. The three of them step into the polished chrome interior of the Executive Express elevator. The heavy steel doors slide shut, sealing them inside a metal box, hurtling upward at terrifying speed. The digital floor indicator on the screen begins to climb rapidly. 30, 40, 50. The anticipation buzzing in the room is electric. It is the perfect total realization of a 5-year nightmare. For 5 years, I suffered in silence. I endured Chloe's condescending remarks about my clothes. I endured Travis's racist microaggressions. I endured Beatrice treating me like an unpaid servant who should be eternally grateful for the privilege of marrying her mediocre son. I endured Marcus lying to my face, gaslighting my reality, and secretly draining my emotional reserves. They thought I was weak because I was quiet. They thought my silence was submission. They never understood that silence is simply the sound of someone building an airtight, unbreachable cage. The digital indicator on the tablet flashes. 60, 65. A soft chime echoes through the quiet reception area outside the boardroom doors. They have arrived on the executive floor. I straighten my posture. I smooth the invisible wrinkles from my dark tailored suit. I turn my gaze away from the tablet and look directly through the frosted glass of the boardroom doors, watching the shadowy silhouettes of my husband, my brother-in-law, and my mother-in-law approaching. The camera slowly pushes in on my face, capturing the absolute merciless calm in my eyes. A cold, genuine smile finally touches the corners of my mouth. "Welcome to hell," I whisper. The camera cuts instantly from the cold reflection in my observation window to a severe high-angle shot mounted directly in the ceiling of the Vanguard Horizon 5P waiting room. The lens looks straight down, capturing the entire room in a single clinical frame. From this elevated vantage point, the Sterling family looks like microscopic insects trapped inside a perfectly sterile glass terrarium. The room itself is an architectural masterpiece of modern corporate intimidation. It features pristine white leather seating, imported Italian marble floors, and brushed steel accents. It is deliberately designed to make visitors feel incredibly small. And looking down at them from the ceiling, they have never looked more pathetic or utterly out of place. Chloe had apparently flown in on a red-eye flight to join the victory lap. She is pacing the perimeter of the room, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. She is wearing a chaotic, desperate assembly of designer labels, a heavily branded belt, an overly recognizable silk blouse, and a jacket draped over her shoulders that screams nouveau riche panic. It is the frantic sartorial display of a woman who knows her bank accounts are secretly hemorrhaging cash and is trying to shield her insecurities behind expensive fabrics. She trails her perfectly manicured hand along the back of a pristine white leather armchair, pressing her fingers into the expensive material. She lets out a sharp, grating laugh that shatters the carefully engineered acoustics of the VIP suite. "Can you imagine Nia in a place like this?" Chloe asks, her voice dripping with absolute unadulterated venom. She turns to face Marcus and Travis, her lips curled into a nasty smirk. She could not step foot in here even in her wildest dreams. She would probably ask the receptionist if they validate parking. A woman without her husband's family backing is nothing but trash. She really thought she was someone important just because she managed our bookkeeping. Marcus leans back against the edge of a heavy glass table, crossing his ankles. He adjusts the cuffs of his bespoke navy suit with the arrogant swagger of a man who believes he has just conquered the global financial market. "She got arrogant," Marcus says, shaking his head in mock pity. "She forgot that the Sterling name is the only reason she ever gained access to any of this. I gave her a life. I elevated her. And the second things got slightly complicated, she tried to leverage her name on a house deed to hold us hostage. It is pathetic, really. She thought she could outsmart me." Travis is too nervous to stand still. He is vibrating with a toxic mix of residual panic and greedy anticipation. He paces back and forth across the center of the room, clutching his leather briefcase tightly against his ribs. "I do not care about her anymore." Travis snaps his eyes, darting toward the heavy frosted glass doors of the suite. "I just care about the wire transfer. The second that $5 million hits the corporate holding account, we execute the waterfront buyout. We pay off the early-tier investors to shut down the state attorney general complaints, and we use the remaining liquidity to push the new development phase. We will have the capital to buy the deed back from these private equity guys before the end of the fiscal quarter. Nia will never even know her precious little plot of dirt was temporarily leveraged." Beatrice is sitting in the center of the largest leather sofa. She has requested a glass of sparkling water from the executive assistant who escorted them in, and she holds the crystal tumbler with practiced aristocratic disdain. She is wearing her signature cashmere coat indoors, a calculated power move designed to show she is entirely unimpressed by her surroundings. "We are not just buying the deed back, Travis," Beatrice says, her voice sharp and commanding. She takes a delicate sip of her water before locking eyes with Marcus. "We are filing for divorce the moment the funds clear. You will retain the best asset division litigator in Atlanta. We are going to bury her in civil court. We will claim the house, the investments, and every single dollar she hid in her personal accounts. By the time our lawyers are finished with her, she will be begging to keep her leased car." Chloe claps her hands together, her eyes gleaming with malicious delight. "I cannot wait to see the look on her face," she says, practically bouncing on her heels. "She thought she was cutting us off. She thought she was leaving us to drown. We should take a picture holding the $5 million approval contract and text it to her. Let her see exactly what happens when you try to cross a Sterling." The camera remains locked in the high-angle ceiling, shot slowly rotating to emphasize their collective delusion. They are a fascinating psychological study in pure, unearned arrogance. They are standing in a building they do not own, preparing to sign a fraudulent document to steal money from a faceless corporation, all to save a criminal enterprise built entirely on lies. They are completely blind to the reality of their survival. They survived for 5 years solely because I worked 70-hour weeks to secretly sanitize their incompetence. And now, without my protective firewall, they have blindly walked straight into a federal trap of their own making. Marcus pulls his phone from his pocket, checking his reflection in the dark screen. He smooths a stray hair into place. I have to admit, Marcus says, a smug, self-satisfied grin spreading across his face. Forging that signature was incredibly satisfying. It felt like taking back what was rightfully ours. She held that land over our heads like a trophy. She refused to leverage it when Travis first pitched the commercial expansion 2 years ago. She said it was too risky. She said Travis lacked the infrastructural planning to support a commercial development. She is a risk-averse coward, Travis spits out, stopping his pacing to glare at Marcus. She does not understand high-level real estate acquisition. She only understands spreadsheets and tax penalties. You did the right thing, Marcus. You took the initiative. That is what real men do. You took control of the family assets when your wife tried to hoard them. Beatrice nods in solemn agreement, setting her crystal glass down on the table. You protected your family, Marcus. That is all that matters. When the history of this company is written, no one will care about the minor administrative shortcuts we had to take to secure our capital. They will only see the success. The camera slowly descends from the ceiling, dropping down to eye level and tracking smoothly toward the heavy frosted glass doors of the VIP suite. The severe isolation of the room amplifies the sound of the approaching footsteps, sharp, confident strides echoing from the marble corridor outside. The conversation inside the room instantly dies. Chloe stops pacing. Travis grips his briefcase tighter. Marcus stands up straight, buttoning the center button of his suit jacket, assuming his most practiced authoritative posture. Beatrice crosses her legs, waiting to receive whoever is about to enter. The heavy glass door slides open with a soft, mechanical hiss. Arthur Penhaligon, the senior director of risk management, steps into the room. He is immaculate. His charcoal suit is tailored to absolute perfection. His expression is a terrifying mask of blank corporate hostility. He does not smile. He does not offer a welcoming hand. He steps into the room carrying a thick black leather portfolio. He is followed immediately by my lead corporate litigator, who quietly closes the glass door behind them, sealing the room. Arthur walks directly to the head of the conference table. He places the black leather portfolio down on the glass surface. The sound is heavy and deliberate. He looks at Marcus. He looks at Travis. He lets his gaze slide over Chloe and Beatrice, taking in their desperate designer clothes and their false bravado. He unclasps the portfolio and opens it, revealing the forged application, the counterfeit land deed, and the federal wire transfer authorization forms. Arthur looks up, his eyes locking directly onto Marcus. His voice is smooth, cold, and utterly devoid of mercy. "Good afternoon," Arthur says, the words hanging in the absolute silence of the room. "Are you ready to finalize the $5 million? Marcus steps forward, a confident smile plastered across his face. He extends his hand toward Arthur across the heavy glass conference table. "We have been ready since yesterday," Arthur Marcus says, his voice dripping with forced camaraderie. "It is a pleasure to finally meet you in person. Vanguard Horizon runs a very tight ship. We appreciate the efficiency." Arthur looks at Marcus's outstretched hand. He does not take it. He simply sets his black leather portfolio down on the pristine glass surface. The rejection is so smooth, so utterly devoid of emotion, that Marcus is forced to awkwardly retract his arm, clearing his throat, and pretending to adjust his cuffs. Beatrice sighs loudly from her position on the white leather sofa. She crosses her legs, snapping her designer handbag shut. "Let us please dispense with the pleasantries," she says, her tone incredibly haughty. "We flew all the way from Atlanta for this single signature. My son has a very busy schedule, and my son-in-law has contractors waiting for capital. Can we simply sign the paperwork and initiate the wire transfer?" Arthur does not look at Beatrice. He keeps his gaze locked on Marcus. The camera begins a slow, relentless orbit around the glass table. It moves with predatory precision, tracking the faces of the Sterling family as they prepare to seal their own destruction. Before we release $5 million of institutional capital. Arthur begins, his voice slicing through the room like a scalpel. We require a final verbal authorization. This is a mandatory federal compliance protocol for all third-party collateral disbursements crossing state lines. Arthur reaches into his tailored jacket pocket. He extracts a sleek black digital audio recorder. He places it precisely in the center of the glass table. The camera pushes in for a tight extreme close-up of the device. Arthur presses the activation button. A solid red light blinks to life, reflecting menacingly in the polished glass surface below it. Chloe scoffs, rolling her eyes. She leans against the window, looking out at the Chicago skyline. "This is ridiculous," she mutters. "It is like an interrogation. Just give them the money." Arthur ignores her. He speaks directly into the blinking device. "Today is Friday. The time is exactly 2:14 in the afternoon. We are located in the executive boardroom of Vanguard Horizon Trust in Chicago, Illinois. I am Arthur Penhaligon, Senior Director of Compliance. I am joined by Marcus Sterling Travis. Sterling, Beatrice Sterling, and Chloe Sterling. This recording serves as the final legal authorization for the interstate disbursement of $5 million. The camera continues its slow orbit. It passes behind Arthur, capturing his rigid, perfectly upright posture. It moves toward Travis. Travis is sweating profusely. The heavy air conditioning of the VIP suite does absolutely nothing to cool the panic radiating from his body. He is gripping his leather briefcase so tightly his knuckles are completely white. He needs this money to cover the massive black hole in his fraudulent development accounts. He is staring at the blinking red light, as if it is a ticking bomb. Arthur slides a crisp, high-resolution copy of the loan agreement across the glass table. He places a silver pen next to it, pointing directly at the final page. The camera orbits over his shoulder, focusing on the forged signature of Nia Sterling. "Mr. Sterling," Arthur says, addressing Marcus, "you are leveraging a 20-acre commercial property deed registered exclusively in the name of your wife, Nia Sterling. Under Title 18 of the United States Code regarding bank fraud and wire fraud, Vanguard Horizon Trust must verify the absolute authenticity of this collateral." Marcus laughs, a short, arrogant sound. He leans over the table, looking at the document. He actually believes he is untouchable. He believes Arthur is just another corporate drone checking boxes on a compliance checklist. "I already confirmed this on our phone call," Arthur Marcus says, adopting his most patronizing tone. "The property is completely unencumbered. My wife and I manage our portfolio together. She fully authorized this leverage. Everything is perfectly legal." Arthur's face remains a mask of stone. He taps the glass table right next to the recorder. "I need you to state for the federal record," Mr. Sterling, Arthur replies, "that the signature on this document belongs to Nia Sterling. I need you to confirm that she signed it of her own free will, without coercion, and with full knowledge that this property will be seized by Vanguard Horizon Trust in the event of a default." The room falls completely silent. The camera orbits around to capture Marcus's face. For a fraction of a second, a shadow of hesitation crosses his eyes. He knows exactly what he is doing. He is actively committing federal perjury on a recorded line. But his ego simply will not allow him to back down. He looks at his mother, Beatrice, who gives him a firm, encouraging nod. "She is completely complicit, endorsing the theft of my property to save her family's facade." Marcus opens his mouth to speak, but he is abruptly cut off. Travis suddenly lunges forward, slamming his hands flat against the glass table. The heavy impact rattles the digital recorder. The camera snaps to Travis. His eyes are wild, his face flushed dark red with desperate rage. He cannot stand the legal posturing anymore. The sheer pressure of his collapsing Ponzi scheme has completely fractured his patience. "This is completely unnecessary," Travis screams, his voice echoing violently off the glass walls. He glares at Arthur, projecting the aggressive, arrogant entitlement that defines the Sterling family. The signature is hers. Nia's signature is completely voluntary. She gave us the deed. She wants us to have the capital. I am sick of these bureaucratic delays. Travis points a shaking finger directly at the blinking red light of the recorder. "Listen to me very carefully," Travis yells, leaning over the table. "I and Marcus take full federal legal responsibility for this entire transaction. We are the guarantors. We are the executives in charge. The paperwork is flawless. The collateral is real. Now stop wasting our time and process the wire transfer immediately. The echo of Travis's voice rings out and slowly fades into the sterile air of the boardroom. The slow orbit of the camera finally comes to a halt, resting on Arthur. Arthur does not flinch. He does not break eye contact. He simply lets the silence stretch, allowing the absolute magnitude of Travis's legally binding confession to settle into the digital memory of the recording device. Travis just claimed full federal accountability for a fraudulent interstate wire transfer. He just handed the FBI a gold-plated confession. Arthur looks at Marcus. Do you concur with Mr. Sterling's statement regarding your shared legal responsibility? Marcus squares his shoulders, smoothing his tie. Absolutely, Marcus says, projecting absolute confidence. We take full responsibility. The signature is genuine. The deal is solid. Arthur looks at Beatrice. And you, Mrs. Sterling. As a witness to this transaction, do you affirm their statements? Beatrice waves her hand dismissively, her heavy jewelry clinking together. Yes, yes, of course, she sighs, rolling her eyes. My sons are men of their word. This interrogation is frankly insulting to our family name. Let us finish this. Arthur slowly reaches out. The camera cuts to an extreme close-up of his hand as his index finger presses the button on the digital recorder. The solid red light instantly vanishes, replaced by a dark, lifeless screen. The trap is closed. The vault is locked. Arthur picks up the recorder and slides it smoothly into his inside jacket pocket. He reaches down and gathers the loan documents from the glass table, aligning the edges with clinical precision. He places them back into his black leather portfolio and snaps the metal clasp shut. Travis exhales a massive breath of relief, wiping his sweaty forehead with the back of his hand. Excellent, Travis says, a manic smile finally breaking across his face. So we are done here. The funds are being released. Arthur looks at the four of them standing around the table. His expression shifts from bureaucratic neutrality to a cold, terrifying finality. The procedure is complete, Arthur says, his voice dropping to a low, resonant timbre. Your verbal authorizations have been secured. The legal framework is now fully established. Marcus crosses his arms, looking around the room. So where is the transfer confirmation? We need the physical receipt before we leave this building. Arthur turns his body slightly facing the heavy frosted glass doors of the boardroom. You will not have to wait, Arthur says, perfectly calm. Our chief executive officer has been monitoring this entire proceeding. She will personally bring the disbursement check in right now. Chloe lets out a delighted laugh, clapping her hands together. Oh, finally, she says, flipping her hair over her shoulder. The CEO. At least someone in this company knows how to treat VIP clients. Marcus smirks, adjusting his posture, prepared to unleash his signature charm on the executive. Travis clutches his briefcase, looking at the door like a starving man watching a feast being prepared. Beatrice sits up straighter, ready to accept the corporate apologies she feels she is owed. The heavy glass doors slide open. I step into the room. The camera instantly drops to the floor, anchoring itself at a severe low angle. The lens focuses sharply on the threshold as the heavy frosted glass doors slide open with a soft, pressurized hiss. A pair of razor-thin black Christian Louboutin stilettos steps onto the pristine imported Italian marble. Click, click, click. The sound is violently sharp, rhythmic, and unyielding. It echoes through the cavernous acoustics of the executive VIP suite, like a metronome counting down the final remaining seconds of their privileged, delusional lives. I step fully into the room. The glass doors slide shut behind me, engaging the magnetic locking mechanism with a heavy, definitive thud. The suite is officially sealed. The camera executes a lightning-fast whip pan across the room, capturing 4 distinct simultaneous portraits of petrified confusion. Marcus freezes. His hand stops dead halfway to adjusting the silk tie at his throat. The arrogant, condescending smirk that had been plastered across his face just seconds ago shatters, completely replaced by a slack-jawed expression of sheer cognitive malfunction. He blinks rapidly, his eyes darting frantically around the room, as if searching for a hidden camera or a logical explanation for an impossible visual error. Travis violently flinches backward. He clutches his leather briefcase so tightly against his chest that his knuckles turn entirely white. A fresh bead of cold sweat breaks out along his hairline, tracking slowly down his flushed cheek. His mouth hangs open, but no sound comes out. Beatrice physically recoils, sinking deeper into the white leather sofa. The crystal tumbler in her hand trembles slightly, causing the ice cubes to clink against the glass. Her perfectly manufactured aristocratic poise evaporates, leaving behind the confused, fearful stare of an elderly woman who has just lost her grip on reality. Chloe simply stands paralyzed by the panoramic windows, her eyes widen to an almost comical degree, taking in my appearance. She looks down at her own chaotic, mismatched assembly of designer labels, and then looks back at me, her mouth forming a silent little circle of absolute shock. I do not say a single word. I do not offer a polite greeting. I do not smile. I walk the length of the massive black marble conference table, deliberately letting the suffocating silence stretch until it becomes physically painful. I am wearing a flawlessly tailored obsidian Tom Ford suit. The cut is sharp, unforgiving, and radiates pure institutional authority. The fabric absorbs the cold light of the room, giving me the appearance of a shadow moving through a sterile laboratory. I wear no jewelry other than a simple platinum watch, a calculated aesthetic choice designed to project absolute clinical dominance. My hair is pulled back into a severe, sleek twist. I look absolutely nothing like the quiet, accommodating, and compliant wife they relentlessly marginalized and abused back in Atlanta. I look like the apex predator of this financial ecosystem, Arthur Penhaligon. The man who just terrified them into a federally recorded confession watches my approach. He immediately steps back from the head of the table. He straightens his posture, clasps his hands formally behind his back, and bows his head slightly in a gesture of absolute unquestioning deference. It is a subtle physical movement, but in the strict, rigid hierarchy of corporate power, it screams volumes. He does not treat me like a client. He treats me like his commanding officer. I pull out the heavy leather chairman's chair located at the exact center of the table. I sit down slowly, resting my forearms on the cool black marble and clasping my hands together. The cognitive dissonance inside the VIP suite is so dense it is practically suffocating. Their brains are violently rejecting the visual data being presented to them. They have spent half a decade viewing me as submissive collateral. They saw me as a glorified unpaid accountant, an administrative assistant, someone entirely beneath their elevated social and financial caste. They simply cannot reconcile the quiet woman who balanced their household grocery budgets with the terrifyingly composed executive currently occupying the absolute seat of power in a multi-billion-dollar financial fortress. Marcus is the first to break the agonizing silence. His fragile, massive ego simply cannot process the reality of the situation. He relies on his default defense mechanism, sheer blinding arrogance. He lets out a short, nervous bark of laughter, shifting his weight uncomfortably from one foot to the other. He looks at Arthur, expecting the compliance director to share in the joke. Arthur remains completely motionless, staring straight ahead. Nia Marcus stammers his deep, authoritative corporate voice, completely failing him, pitching up half an octave. He takes a hesitant step toward the table. What in the world are you doing here? How did you even get up to this floor? Did security let you up because you showed them my identification at the front desk? I remain perfectly still. My expression is completely flat. My eyes lock onto his, holding his gaze with a cold, dead intensity. I let him dig his own grave. I let the hidden microphones capture every single syllable of his terminal arrogance. Chloe scoffs loudly, rolling her eyes and aggressively crossing her arms over her chest. She pushes off the window glass, stepping toward the center of the room. "Oh my God," she mutters, loud enough for the ceiling baffles to record perfectly. "She probably followed us. She is completely obsessed. She cannot handle the fact that we are closing a massive corporate deal without her little accounting advice. This is honestly just pathetic, Nia. You are embarrassing yourself." Beatrice sets her sparkling water down on the glass side table with a sharp, angry clink. Her face twists into a mask of pure aristocratic disdain, her initial shock rapidly converting into offended entitlement. "Nia, this is highly inappropriate." Beatrice snaps, her voice dripping with venomous authority. "We are in the middle of a highly sensitive and extremely confidential corporate transaction. You have absolutely no business interrupting a federal disbursement signing. I do not care what domestic squabble you are having with my son. You need to leave this room immediately before I have this gentleman call building security to escort you off the premises." Travis leans heavily against the back of an armchair, his breathing shallow and rapid. He is the only one in the room whose primitive survival instincts are starting to scream that something is terribly, fundamentally wrong. He looks at Arthur's rigid, deferential posture. He looks at the thick black portfolio resting on the table. He looks at the way I am sitting completely unfazed by their insults. The realization is trying to break into his mind, but the sheer impossibility of it keeps pushing it back out. Marcus ignores his brother's visible panic. He steps closer to the black marble table, plastering on a deeply condescending smile. He actually reaches his hand out as if preparing to physically usher me out of the chairman's seat like a misbehaving child. "Seriously," Nia Marcus says, his tone shifting to the patronizing, sickeningly sweet voice he always used when explaining simple financial concepts to me. "This is a highly secure executive floor. You cannot just wander around up here. Are you working here now? Are you temping for the administrative staff? Did they hire you to bring in the coffee or clean the conference rooms? Because if you are the new janitor, you really need to learn how to read the room. We are waiting for the CEO." The absolute, sheer, unadulterated arrogance of the statement hangs suspended in the freezing air of the boardroom. He is standing directly in the center of the execution chamber of his own making. He has just committed federal perjury. He has admitted to wire fraud on a recorded line. He is facing decades in federal prison. And yet he is still blindly, desperately trying to assert dominance over me. He still fundamentally believes that women without a powerful family name are nothing but disposable trash. I look up at him. I do not blink. I do not show a single fraction of an inch of emotion. The silence stretches for 5 agonizing beats. I reach out slowly. I place my right hand flat on top of the black leather portfolio resting on the table, the portfolio containing his forged loan documents, the counterfeit property deed, and the digital audio recorder holding his terminal confession. I slide the heavy portfolio slowly across the polished black marble, bringing it to rest directly in front of me. The sound of the thick leather scraping against the stone is the only noise in the entire room. I tap my index finger once against the cover. "I am not here to clean up your trash, Marcus," I say, my voice slicing through the heavy air, cold, precise, and absolutely lethal. "I am the Chief Executive Officer of Onyx Capital and the Managing Director of Vanguard Horizon Trust, and I am here to collect." The silence in the room instantly transforms into a physical, crushing weight. The camera locks onto my face, cold, detached, and completely in control, before slowly panning to the gallery of absolute horror assembled around the black marble table. Marcus is staring at me, his perfectly styled hair suddenly seeming out of place above a face entirely drained of blood. His jaw goes completely slack. He blinks rapidly, his eyes darting frantically from my flawless obsidian Tom Ford suit to Arthur, who remains standing in silent, rigid deference behind my chair. Marcus's brain fundamentally rejects the visual data. He cannot reconcile the submissive wife he abused for 5 years with the terrifying executive standing before him. Nia Marcus stammers, his deep, authoritative corporate voice completely failing him, pitching up into a pathetic high-octave squeak. He takes a hesitant, shaky step toward the table, his hand trembling as he points at me. "What in the world are you doing here? Are you the janitor here? Did they hire you to clean up the boardrooms?" I do not answer him immediately. I walk slowly to the head of the table. 2 massive corporate security guards dressed in identical dark tactical suits step into the room behind me, their sheer physical presence instantly shrinking the perceived safety of the VIP suite. The heavy glass doors slide shut, locking with a heavy, definitive mechanical thud. "I am not here to clean up your trash, Marcus," I say, my voice smooth, resonating off the glass walls with lethal precision. I pull out the heavy leather chairman's chair and sit down, resting my forearms on the cool black marble. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Onyx Capital, the parent company of Vanguard Horizon Trust, and I am here to collect. The camera begins its relentless, deliberate zoom in sequence, starting with Beatrice. The elderly matriarch's face contorts in a horrific blend of aristocratic indignation and sudden paralyzing terror. She grips the armrests of her white leather chair so tightly her knuckles turn a sickly shade of yellow. The diamond rings on her fingers shake violently. "This is a trick!" Beatrice gasps, her voice breaking into a shrill, hysterical pitch. She points a manicured, shaking finger at me. "This is some kind of sick, elaborate prank. You are a bookkeeper. You are a nobody from a nobody family. You do not own this building. I built this firm from the ground up during the 70-hour weeks you thought I was out running your meaningless errands, Beatrice." I correct her, leaning forward. "I managed your entire financial existence while you blindly spent money you did not have. Your entire dynasty is a hollow shell, and I am the one holding the hammer." A high-pitched feral scream erupts from the corner of the room. Beatrice clutched her chest, hyperventilating, but the sound does not come from her. The camera aggressively whip pans and zooms straight into Chloe's face. The smug label-obsessed woman is gone, replaced by a picture of absolute unhinged hysteria. The realization that she has been mocking a billionaire CEO, that her entire fake identity is crumbling in real time, completely breaks her mind. "You lying, manipulative witch!" Chloe screams at the top of her lungs, her face twisting into an ugly mask of pure venomous rage. She lunges forward, her stilettos slipping slightly on the polished marble. She raises her hands, her manicured nails aimed directly at my face. She completely forgets where she is operating, purely on blind, desperate aggression. She wants to tear me apart for dismantling her perfect, stolen life. I do not even blink. I do not move a single muscle. Before Chloe can close half the distance between us, the lead corporate security guard moves with terrifying practiced speed. He intercepts her, wrapping a massive hand around her upper arm and twisting her momentum. In one fluid, brutal motion, he forces her downward, slamming her violently back into the heavy leather chair. "Get your hands off me!" Chloe shrieks, thrashing wildly, her expensive designer jacket tearing at the seam with a loud fabric rip. "Remain seated, ma'am." The guard orders, his voice a low, booming rumble that echoes through the room. He applies heavy downward pressure to her shoulder, pinning her securely against the upholstery. She struggles for a few more pathetic seconds before the sheer physical strength of the guard forces her into total submission. She dissolves into ugly, gasping sobs, her perfect makeup running down her face in dark, pathetic streaks. I turn my attention to Travis. The camera zooms in tight on his sweating, flushed face. He is gripping his leather briefcase like a life preserver. His eyes dart from the black portfolio on the table to my face, the pieces of his catastrophic failure finally clicking together in his mind. I signal to Arthur. He opens a secondary folder and slides a thick stack of heavy legal documents across the smooth glass directly toward Travis. Travis physically flinches as the papers hit his briefcase. "What is this?" Travis whispers, terrified to touch the paper, his voice trembling so violently he can barely form the words. "Those are the acceleration notices for your 4 primary commercial development projects," I explain, enunciating every single syllable. The camera zooms closer to Travis's eyes, capturing the exact moment his soul shatters. "You have been operating a Ponzi scheme, Travis. You used new investor money to pay off old returns. I secretly bought out your mezzanine debt 3 months ago through an Onyx Capital subsidiary. I just needed the bridge loan." Travis screams, jumping to his feet and knocking his chair backward. "I was going to pay it back tomorrow. You set me up to default. You trapped me. You trapped yourself," I reply, my voice dropping to a terrifying, absolute calm. "Due to your late payments and the fraudulent nature of your corporate collateral, Vanguard Horizon has seized your assets. The 4 apartment complexes belong to me now. They were transferred into my holding trust an hour ago." Travis falls to his knees, his hands gripping the edge of the glass table. "No, no, no." He repeats a pathetic, broken mantra, tears streaming down his face. "And Travis," I add, ensuring he looks up at me, my eyes completely devoid of mercy. Your personal mansion was heavily leveraged against those projects. Since you defaulted, the bank has initiated immediate foreclosure. Tomorrow morning at exactly 8 o'clock, the county sheriff will execute the eviction notice. You and Chloe have exactly 14 hours to pack whatever fits in the trunk of your car. Chloe lets out another hysterical wail, burying her face in her hands. Travis collapses entirely, resting his forehead against the cold marble floor, sobbing openly. And then there is Marcus. The camera slowly finds him again. The zoom is excruciatingly slow, highlighting the complete total devastation of his ego. He is staring at me, his eyes wide and hollow. The man who thought he controlled the world, who thought he could steal from me with absolute impunity, is currently processing the absolute destruction of his reality. You planned this from the start, Marcus whispers, his voice cracking. The entire marriage. You played us. You used us. I loved you, Marcus, I say. And for the first time, a sliver of genuine emotion bleeds into my voice, sharp and overwhelmingly bitter. I spent 5 years trying to be the perfect wife. I fixed your mistakes. I managed your family's reckless spending. I endured your mother's constant insults and your sister-in-law's condescension. I gave you everything I had. I leaned forward, bridging the gap between us, my eyes blazing with cold fire. But you could not handle a woman who was smarter than you. You had to belittle me to make yourself feel big. And then you tried to steal the one thing my mother left me. You thought you could forge my name and throw me away like garbage. It was just business. Marcus pleads, his arrogance completely broken, replaced by pathetic, sniveling desperation. Nia, please. We are a family. We can fix this. I will cancel the loan. I will give the deed back. Just call off the eviction. Please, I am begging you. You do not dictate the terms anymore, I say, sitting back in the chairman's seat, folding my hands perfectly together. You signed a federal document on a recorded line, Marcus. You admitted to interstate wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. You gave me the weapon and you pulled the trigger yourself. No, Beatrice screams, finally finding her voice. She points a shaking finger at Arthur, her face twisted in pure desperation. He tricked us. That recording is illegal. You cannot do this. We are the Sterling family. As a licensed financial institution, we are federally mandated to record all interstate authorizations. Arthur replies smoothly, his voice a perfect display of bureaucratic indifference. You were clearly informed you were on a recorded line at the beginning of the call. Your consent was legally established. The FBI has already reviewed the audio. The acronym drops into the room like a live grenade. FBI. Marcus stumbles backward, his legs hitting the edge of the sofa. He collapses onto the white leather next to his mother, his hands gripping his hair, pulling at the perfectly styled strands. The FBI, he repeats, the color draining completely from his face, leaving him looking like a corpse. Nia, what did you do? I did not do anything, Marcus. I reply, my voice perfectly level, staring at the broken shells of the people who tormented me for half a decade. You committed the crime. You crossed state lines. You forged the signature. I simply provided the venue for your confession. The smooth tracking shots that previously defined the Vanguard Horizon VIP suite are abruptly abandoned. The perspective instantly shifts to a raw, frantic handheld camera style. The frame jerks and trembles perfectly, mimicking the erratic, hyperventilating rhythm of Marcus Sterling as he stares at me. His pristine corporate facade is completely gone. He is just a terrified man realizing his life is effectively over. He takes another step backward, but his legs simply give out. Marcus Sterling, the man who spent 5 years telling me I was financially illiterate, collapses onto the imported Italian marble floor. He lands hard on his knees. The sharp sound of bone hitting stone echoes through the room, but he does not even seem to feel it. He crawls forward, dragging his expensive tailored trousers across the floor, and grabs the edge of the black marble conference table. Nia, please. Marcus begs, his voice reduced to a wet, pathetic whisper. Tears are spilling over his eyelashes, dropping onto his immaculate silk tie. I am sorry. I am so incredibly sorry. You won. You got the buildings. You got the money. Just let us walk away. I will sign whatever you want. I will give you a full divorce. You can have everything. Just please do not let them put me in prison. Travis is backed against the floor-to-ceiling window, sliding down the glass until he is sitting on the floor, pulling his knees to his chest like a frightened child. He is rocking back and forth, muttering incoherently to himself. I look down at Marcus. I feel absolutely nothing. No pity, no remorse, just the clinical satisfaction of a mathematical equation finally balancing out. You still do not understand how this works, Marcus. I say, my voice perfectly steady, cutting through his pathetic sobbing. You cannot negotiate your way out of a federal crime with money you no longer possess. I do not want your apologies. I want consequence. I lift my hand and point directly at the small black digital recorder Arthur had placed on the table. That device was not just saving a local audio file. I explain, watching the last remaining spark of hope die in my ex-husband's eyes. Vanguard Horizon compliance protocols require live verification. The wire fraud you just authorized, the forgery you proudly confessed to it, was all being broadcast live to the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the adjacent monitoring room. Marcus lets out a sound that is barely human, a hollow, suffocating gasp. Before he can form a single word, the heavy frosted glass doors of the VIP suite are violently shoved open. There is no soft mechanical hiss this time. The doors hit their tracks with a brutal, shattering force. Federal agents, nobody move, a commanding voice barks out. 4 FBI agents wearing dark tactical vests stream into the pristine boardroom. The severe reality of federal law enforcement instantly shatters the sterile, luxurious illusion of the corporate suite. They move with terrifying practiced efficiency, completely ignoring the Italian marble and white leather furniture. Beatrice screams a high-pitched, aristocratic shriek of absolute terror as 2 agents storm past her. She shrinks into the sofa, pulling her cashmere coat around her as if expensive fabric could somehow shield her from federal indictments. Chloe presses herself flat against the window, covering her mouth with both hands, her eyes wide with unadulterated horror. Marcus Sterling stand up and Agent barks, grabbing Marcus by the shoulders of his bespoke navy suit. Marcus is completely dead weight. He offers no resistance as the agent hauls him roughly to his feet. He does not fight. He does not argue. He just stares at me with hollow, empty eyes as the agent forcefully spins him around and slams him face first against the glass wall of the conference room. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, bank fraud, and identity theft. The agent states, his voice cold and mechanical. The sharp, metallic, ratcheting sound of heavy steel handcuffs clicking tightly around Marcus's wrists echoes like a gunshot. The sound rips through the remaining arrogance of the Sterling family, destroying their generational privilege in a fraction of a second. Across the room, 2 other agents have descended on Travis. Unlike Marcus, Travis panics. He tries to scramble away along the floor, slipping on the polished marble. He kicks out wildly, letting out a high-pitched squeal of pure terror. "Get your hands off me!" Travis screams, thrashing violently as the agents grab his arms. I did not do it. It was Marcus. Marcus signed the paper. It was his idea. "Stop resisting," an agent yells, pressing his knee firmly into Travis's back and forcing him flat against the marble floor. Travis's face is smashed against the cold stone, his expensive glasses snapping under the pressure. The agents wrench his arms backward, securing his wrists in heavy steel cuffs. Travis bursts into loud, ugly sobbing, crying out for his mother like a terrified infant. Beatrice watches her 2 golden sons, the heirs to her fraudulent empire, being physically restrained and treated like common criminals. She clutches her chest, gasping for air, her carefully constructed world completely annihilated. I remain seated in the chairman's chair, watching the raid unfold with absolute composure. The scales of justice have finally tipped. The camera begins a smooth, continuous tracking shot, pulling backward, distancing itself from the wreckage of the Sterling family. The FBI agents haul Marcus and Travis to their feet. The harsh, metallic clinking of their handcuffs provides a rhythmic soundtrack to their humiliating exit. Marcus looks absolutely destroyed, his expensive suit rumpled, his unearned arrogance completely shattered. He drags his feet as the agent shoves him toward the exit. As they are forcefully marched past the head of the black marble table, I remain perfectly still in the chairman's seat. I do not gloat. I do not raise my voice. I wait until Marcus is forced to look at me one final time. "Remember what you told me before you forged that deed?" I ask, my voice echoing through the silent room, cold and detached. "You said if I disappeared, no one would even notice." Marcus stops dead in his tracks, his eyes widening in a sudden, horrifying realization of his own hubris. "Well, I disappeared, Marcus." I continue, letting the words sink deep into his fractured mind. "And you were right. You did not notice. You did not notice until your entire world collapsed because I was no longer holding it up for you. Now tell me, who is the forgotten one?" The FBI agent shoves Marcus forward, breaking our eye contact forever. Travis is dragged out right behind him, weeping openly and begging the agents to let him call his lawyer. The heavy glass doors slide shut, sealing Beatrice and Chloe inside the room with their ruined dynasty. The tracking shot continues to pull back until they are nothing but small, pathetic figures trapped in a sterile glass cage. The scene dissolves seamlessly. 6 months later, the camera transitions to a slow, graceful crane shot, elevating smoothly over my shoulder. I am standing in the penthouse office of Onyx Capital, looking out through the floor-to-ceiling windows at the sprawling, brilliant Chicago skyline. The evening traffic paints rivers of red and gold across the city grid. It is a view of absolute limitless power. Behind me, the sleek, flat-screen television mounted on the wall plays the evening financial news on low volume. The anchor's voice is crisp and professional. Former Atlanta real estate developers Marcus and Travis Sterling were sentenced today to 15 years in federal prison without the possibility of early parole, the anchor announces. The brothers pleaded guilty to multiple counts of interstate wire fraud and identity theft following the spectacular collapse of their commercial property empire. I take a slow, deliberate sip from a crystal glass of expensive red wine. The taste is incredibly sweet. My phone rests on the edge of the polished mahogany desk. The screen suddenly illuminates, cutting through the dim lighting of the office. A new text message appears. The sender is Beatrice. "Nia, please," she writes, her words radiating a pathetic, desperate panic. "The bank took the house. They took everything. Chloe left me. I have nowhere to go. Please, you are still family. Help me." I look at the glowing screen for a brief moment. I do not feel anger. I do not feel pity. I feel absolutely nothing at all. I tap the screen once, selecting the contact options. I press block. The screen instantly goes dark. I turn away from the desk, lifting my glass of wine toward the glittering cityscape stretching out endlessly before me. The world is finally mine. The camera continues to elevate, pushing past my shoulder and focusing entirely on the glowing city lights as the screen slowly fades to black.